have everyone, to make sure that everyone is heard and has the opportunity to share and to listen. And so, in order to do that effectively, or as effectively as I can help you to be, I am inviting us to develop a set of speaking agreements. This is Dr. Harkness said. How about you introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. Kathy Armistead, pronoun she, her. Since my chance of being a student, and I'm going to attempt to write the word legislate and spell correctly. So the intent is not to take it north, but I wanted to invite speaking agreements for those that are does everybody know or can anybody share with us what I mean by speaking agreements or meeting agreements? Anyone who has a microphone here or is not like, and let's see you. Okay. So that's just what you're describing. So the first speaking agreement is no you wanna have that a little bit? No profane language. Okay. Does everybody understand what that means? Okay. Just asking. Any other speaking agreements or meeting agreements? I know that as part of this, and they're not thanking us for helping us put this together in the last few hours. So I've not had an opportunity to really meet with Louis. But Louis, do you want to share a little bit about the parameters of using the space? And
Thank you. I was director as well.
no, I mentioned it until a little bit before 11 o'clock. So no matter what we do, and how we share, how we come together, we expect us all to leave at about 10:45. Does that work for everybody? Does that work for the chair? Okay. Any other speaking agreements or any other meeting agreements? Me? Yes. Go ahead. No call to violence. Speak a little bit more into the microphone. Sorry. I'm gonna invite you to introduce yourself. So I can't be close to the owl, but yes, I will in the microphone. Holly asked us to move closer to the owl.
Hi, everyone. My name is Marissa Valdez So she, her, the director of community affairs, student development and leadership, and to say students are new to campus. I've been for 15 years. Excited to be here with you all tonight. As a good meeting and then on the space, keep it clean, and the other ones.
Okay. All right. Any other speaking or space agreement? Anyone from the Senate? The Senate will be chaired by Sophia Padilla, and I'm going to be right over here if there's anything that actually may not be in speaking agreements. We will you to reach out to me to go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cesar Castillo from Antigua, chair of the election board this year. I just have an announcement for candidates running in the spring 2024 general election. Whether you are a standard candidate who will be prepared for the DOC deadline, attended DOC, or you're a write-in candidate, you're required to attend. You are required to attend 1 week from the Senate. I think some of you have come to sign back here with Marissa. If you haven't already, please approach Marissa in an orderly fashion and write your name down for the position you're running for. If you're on Zoom, I would ask that Holly record if you're able to. That way, we have a full accounting of who is here. The election board is also taking action to permit Senate candidates to attend the April 17th meeting of the Senate without penalty, subject to ratification by the Senate. But that's a decision to be made. So, yeah, if there are any questions, you can reach me back here, let the polo share. There will be a email. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. There's going to be a QR code on the screen and a couple of for public forum.
Yeah, give me 30 seconds.
Oh, and that's how we're going to say it for public forum who wish to speak. Any other speaking agreements? And there may be some that more that come up.
Anybody have anything that would make you feel more comfortable speaking in the space? Alright, well, we will keep the markers right there, we're gonna keep that up there, and if anybody feels that anybody is not following the rules, we have a speaking meeting or something, and talk that, and we will, make it so. So, I'll invite the chair of the Senate to, convene this meeting.
Sure.
Are you ready to convene this meeting?
Yeah. Before we begin, we acknowledge the Lansing University was built upon and founded upon.
Want to be able to hear it.
Thank you. We're founded upon exclusions and arrangements of many indigenous peoples and places upon whose land is located, the villages and the cedar territories of indigenous peoples, starting with Omaha, state of growth, Adams, and Garden. Bravo. Carlson.
Present.
Zah.
Present.
Christian.
Present.
Paul. Gabrielson. Kara.
Present.
Lebowski.
Present.
Little.
Present.
Martinez.
Present.
Rowe.
Present.
Salvador. Shaw.
Present.
Wayne. Present. Webber. Yamini.
Present.
Montevideo.
Present.
A. Martinez. Will you receive absences for Webber? If not, okay. Is there a motion to excuse the late false consideration?
Second.
Second by Commissioner, discussion?
To the chair. Can't hear you at all.
Elizabeth?
The minute takers need to be able to hear. You got a thumbs up? Okay.
Okay, cool. Bill? Too bad. Okay, we're discussing a motion to excuse Senator Paul. We're discussing already said. He's all right. And then somebody consent and the motion passes.
Are we sure that the people on the Zoom can hear us? Because I feel like some of them are probably here and didn't hear that. Because I'm assuming that Mike is still, or Senator Littlepage is still on the Zoom. Oh,
Was that a yes?
Can you not hear me on?
Oh, yeah, we
Zoom?
can.
Oh, okay. Senator Bandari is also here.
No, that, or any of them, when the senator, any senator speaks, they need to have a microphone.
Yeah, sure.
Mhm. In case somebody else needs to speak.
You're good.
I'm also present, Senator Bandari.
Floor is open and seat absences. Now moving on, acceptance of proxies. Floor is open. No proxies. Moving to external reports. Chancellor's representative, UCPD.
GSA? You said no board, IBCFD? Okay, we'll move to business, I'd like to move directly into. Okay, please get the QR code, you're in the public forum. But I would like to move directly into election for chairman. I'd like to ask you to keep the report of the city clerk active if possible. Should I grab that mic? Cool, everything, awesome. That sounds right. So first of all, before that next part report, I want to clarify a little bit about the role of the election board. We're generally here, we are here to facilitate the electoral processes that are spelled out in ASU code. it's our goal to not take sides or positions, in any of the electoral affairs. We adjudicate things as they come in to the extent that they're permitted to. We hear from all candidates and take, their responses, their concerns, questions into account. But we don't take positions or sides on anything. I want to make that very clear as I go into this report. And I'll make it brief as I equally as requested. We have time, because I know this undoubtedly has questions about everything that's going on. So I'd like to commence with updates on the ballot. As you may have noticed, the ballot is not up for your approval today. Eligibility checks for Senate candidates and executive candidates are still ongoing. Candidates who are found to have been ineligible are getting notified. And there's a process whereby, answers that will work with them to resolve them, if they feel that the judgment that's been made is not the most correct. The fact of the matter is that, the systems that you see here are archaic, and they may not always have the most up-to-date information in terms of units, spot handling, and so forth. You'll notice this in the minutes, in the elections board minutes, where we request an extension to submit the ballot to Senate, to Saturday, April 15th at 18. That's a pre-ratification. The one thing the council know is that we have a language for the three MPs that are being proposed this year, they've already been passed by the Senate. That's what I'm about. I want to talk next about the election timeframe. So this was brought to my attention yesterday by the AS advisors, that the majority of the election concurs or runs concurrently to the beginning of Passover. So we reached out to the AS Jewish Commission, we received a response from one of the representatives, heard from him. The result of that was an extension of the election to Friday, April 26th at noon, to accommodate those traveling before and after the first 2 days of Passover. As I understand it, those 2 days are the most restrictive for those observing the holidays. So the benefit for everybody, not just those observing, is that I hope this isn't a controversial decision for anybody that people have. We had other things to consider in terms of, possible other options considered were going to paper ballots. We struck that down, or I guess it is up to the Senate to decide. If you guys will want to paper ballots, we'll figure out how to do that. And the way to do that would be by having the executive director go to a third party accounting firm and arrange that. Elections board, any sort of paper voting or two here. There's also some logistical coordination with the Graduate Student Association and the Campus Elections Commission. They run their elections concurrently with ours. Results from CPC have to be folded in with our results, because they have their fees that we as an association don't manage. So there's logistical coordination going on in the background with ASPR staff and representatives from those two organizations, those two teams, that I'm not privy to right now. So that's what's going on there. And the last thing is the recall election, or the recall petition. So I think the entire Senate has received the transmission of the recall petition. 1,017 signatures were given as of, I think, April 4th. 844 signatures were valid, 173 signatures were invalid, or the registrar was unable to verify them. And that's a key thing that I want to emphasize. It's the office of the registrar who tells us how many signatures are valid. Just because there are education privacy laws surrounding student records. So we received counts, I guess, Marty, you want to talk about that for a second?
I was asking the chair to be recognized. If the chair could invite the speaker that comes closer to our owl, then the audio feed to our online folks would be more clear. So I don't know if we need to be the whole podium, but if you could just stand closer to them. So this little contraption right here. Is that cool?
It's cool. If I get my report from here, that sounds better to everybody on Zoom.
We'll check on that.
Okay.
Don't worry, you just keep going.
Yeah, so the petition is now in your hands. As included in the message that I transmitted to the Senate, there are 2 votes that are required to be taken. We've operated on this based off of the 2020 elections board, the documents they left behind for us. So the first vote that you'll have to consider is to ratify the petition, the receipt of the petition. And in my interpretation of the code, it falls under an organizational action. So it requires a simple majority of members voting, so long as a quorum is present. If you vote yes to ratify the petition, then it goes to the second vote on whether or not to hold a special election. If you vote no on ratification, then it dies there. If you do vote yes to ratification, we go to the special election. Special election requires a 2/3 majority to be held. You as Senate cannot specify the details of the election, the timeframe, the method. I can pretty much like 95% confirm we as a board have discussed this. And if it were to come to a special election, we would proceed in the 4th week, the same as the spring general election, and it would be held online, the same as the spring general election. It was also brought to my interpretation that to my attention, that there's an alternate interpretation of the AS Constitution in which a Senate approval of the recall election is not required. To be clear, we are not going with this interpretation. We're going with it's in the Senate hands. It's in the Senate's hands, but that also means that you can consider this interpretation. So the citation, if anybody's curious, is Article 11, Section 2 of the AS Constitution. You can read into that at your leisure, at your leisure. I think I'll stop there. Does anybody have any questions?
We want to make sure you have a microphone.
Test.
I'm gonna turn it on.
Should be switch in the middle that you can push up. Thanks.
The cost of the paper, not so much my concern. How much, this is in regards to paper ballots, how much would like an accounting firm cost?
That's a pretty select question.
We do not know. How's that? The expectation would be we would first. The expectation would be that we would first invite the campus to independently carry out an election that is not in our process or procedure. And the second would be the accounting firm outside the campus. On campus, it would be in the department called Audit Advisory Services. We would invite them to carry out this procedure first, and then if not, then we would have to invite an accounting.
All right, this is solution.
Thank you, Susan.
Senator Law.
I'm sorry to call the chair down, but I haven't actually seen the text of the recall petition, nor do I know who the recall sponsor is. And both of those would be nice. In particular, I'm curious who the recall sponsor is, and whether they're friend or a petitioner for the recall. Is there anyone present who's the sponsor for the recall petition? Thank you.
I would definitely motion the recompetition of the agenda forward to the Senate.
I just want to reiterate, I haven't actually seen the text of any petition. All I've seen is the memorandum from SEP. So with the chair permission, like.
Cool. So if it's amenable to the term as president, I can read the entire text of the petition. Is that what you're asking for, or do you just want a text copy of it?
I think adding it into the
Minutes, and I know the minutes folder, or by calling to the agenda, read on the email, will probably be best.
Okay, sounds good.
And then do you know anyone presenting themselves as a recall
Yes, so the two names of the recall petition sponsors are public, excuse me,
Thank you. And,
Does your name also been in the memo sent? Yes, so the two sponsors of the competition are Isabella Carthol and some, what's the Irish name, Royson. KEOGH. I have to get that last name, but it is in the memo and I included it on the sacred file on Senate agendas. That's okay.
Thank you, and I'm seeing that now in the document that you sent us. If you could include the text of the petition, whatever it is you actually sign, that would be very helpful. Okay, thank you.
Was it? Is that, oh, sorry, Sean.
In the meantime, while we're waiting, with Jeff and I'd like to motion to add the resignation of the state director to like campus community and resignation of Andre Goldie's director of public interest to item L.
There's been a motion to add a resignation of Emma Till as
Director of Student Life,
Director of Student and Community, as well as
the resignation of Andrew Toblias, Director of Public Interest.
resignation of Andrew Williams, Director of Public Interest. The agenda is there, second by way of conversation. I have a question, if you have a question. It's done. Consent, seeing none, motion passes 4-0. Is that right? There's been a motion to add UCSD.com. .com. There's been a motion to add UCSD.com funding to action. Is there a second? Second by Adel, now discussion. I have a question. Consent, seeing none, motion passes 4-0.
Again, while we're in the limbo, I'd like to give a brief update on IMAC funding, as we said that in last meeting. And also the audience members might not be aware, the Senate is moving forward with a plan to fund in the order of about $55,000, a pilot program that's going to be developing a mobile food pantry for students in our visit in downtown department. And if you'd like a copy of that proposal, we can bring it afterwards. As the Senate, I'd like to give an update that we're tentatively going to be holding a meeting next Monday with the project team, the benches staff, and everyone else. And we should have a report in writing for everyone after that meeting for December.
Thank you, Senator. Floor is open. I expect there's one topic that's very stuff. If anyone would be willing to add to the agenda, then I would be the time. Floor is open.
Just appearing the guidance if you don't want to make that motion, it's then automatically you guys need to be competition.
Motion to add competition on the agenda.
There's been a motion to add the recall petition on the agenda. Have those in second.
Second, Carlson.
Second by Carlson, any discussion?
Objection.
Second, motion.
Can you be more specific about the motion language?
Yeah.
What's
The recall petition doesn't seem very specific to me.
Motion to add the recall petition that President has selected on the agenda.
Get a motion? There's been a motion to add the recall petition that President has selected on the agenda. Is there a second?
Second, Carlson.
Any discussion?
Call the question.
I can call the question, objection, call the question.
Objection.
Objection, you see, call the question.
Yes, sorry.
Senator Thomas?
Regardless of where I'd like to make this motion as a motion, take a vote on it.
Understood. We're still in discussion.
Can the senator repeat his motion?
He was contesting the motion, after the first discussion. Yes,
We'll vote on the motion to add the petition.
I have one question, objection, one question.
Objection.
I
Objection.
have an objection, you see, one question. Call the question, obviously, we go to vote, again, and vote, it's yes, no, abstain. Answer the yeses. You understand it? Yes. Any others? 4 minutes, 5 minutes, and extensions. 3 extensions. Yeah, motion passes.
You've been treating abstentions, not my, so.
Oh, my bad, if I'm late. Okay, so the petition's not at the agenda. Yes, there's a.
Well, Senator Chair, allow me to call the question.
Yeah, I suppose.
Motion to reconsider the previous motion.
There's a motion to reconsider the previous motion, there's a. Second by one, discussion.
Question.
I have one less objection, my question. Or consent agenda, consent. Seeing none, motion passes. So. I think I'm parliamentarian right now, but if I'm wrong that we just added to the agenda. After the objection and after a vote, should get down.
I'll, I don't think your elections board chair, has that role. I think you can have,
Evidence is not true. Okay. Okay, I'm just gonna know that action is. So I'm just gonna read this action, it's Florida Open Child. Yeah. If no one wants to, it's another.
Motion.
It's a motion, it's not on the day, we can form the section. And by. Adler, Sean?
Anyone who would look for this one said, public forum, you could be out here at 10:50 and vote on this matter needs to be taken.
Thank you, Senator, what's the discussion?
It's in the previous motion.
Motion was seconded, or the Sean?
I motion to enter public forum for a period of 40 minutes until 9:45 p.m.
There's a motion at a formal period of 40 minutes, 9:45 p.m. Second, Mr. Rizal, discussion.
Call question.
I have a question, question.
Consent.
Second, seeing none, motion passes, now we move forward. Senator Rizal.
the motion to pass the rules of discussion of the constitution of the United States and creating the constitution of space region.
Second.
Okay.
There's been a motion for that.
Motion to have a rules of discussion of the competition, the SOP, and the duration for their meeting, second by consent.
Call question.
And one motion, and one question.
Consent.
And seeing none, motion passes. Okay, we're not.
Yeah, we have a list.
Yeah, we was, and also, you're already on it.
First one is 6:05.
Sibal. Sorry, it's slightly rules today. You will have 2 minutes to speak and one with the Q&A. And you can choose not to answer questions. And then I'm gonna read what was that about. The chance to speak with 1 minute of Q&A, please not say or anything else, and speak to the board, but any issue is on the agenda and not physically at the point will be granted, may all of us to issues, comments, questions. Do you agree?
I agree.
Megan?
Hi, my name is Sigal Blacken. I'm speaking to you as a member of the Jewish community and also as someone who's known Tessa for almost 6 years. Something I can say about Tessa with absolute certainty is that she's an activist in her form. Even before she got involved with student government here at UCSD, she has always spoken up about issues she was passionate about. She has always tried to bring awareness to issues of injustice and to elevate the voices of those who are affected by these issues. This mission has never changed for her. You need to understand that Tessa is also a daughter of Jewish Soviet refugees. She knows so well what it is like to be persecuted and to live in fear of being Jewish. Speaking up for her people and our right to live safely and free from persecution has always been a priority for her, as it should be. Since the month of the heinous massacre and mass rape on October 7th, Tessa has been scrutinized for standing up for her people as a proud Jewish Zionist. I'm going to say this to those who don't understand what that means. Zionism is simply the belief that Jews have right to self-determination are our ancestral homeland. The self-determination future of Jews and Palestinians is not mutually exclusive. Tessa is a Zionist peace activist, like all of us standing with her in this room. Regardless of what the official languages we use to advocate for her recall, it has always been about her identity. From day one, when she posted about the atrocities committed against Jewish people on October 7th and advocated for the release of hostages, she has been bullied and intimidated online and in person. Recall Tessa Wexler has been circulating social media for 6 months, not because people actually care about quote-unquote experiences with democratic process, but because she proudly speaks up for her community and because she has made it clear that she's not going anywhere. We've learned throughout history that there are very few people who speak up for the Jewish people when we need it the most, so we need to loudly and quickly speak up for ourselves. We need Tessa and advocates like her in positions of power to speak for us, because only then do we have any hope of staying safe. How can Jewish students feel safe when you are Jewish peers being explicitly targeted? Don't recall to the next one. Thank you.
Questions?
Yes.
Or is that what you want?
Thanks for coming to all. Thanks for being first.
Hello. 827 people voted for the recall. That's what we do. In your opinion, do you think that all the people who voted for the recall are anti-Semites?
I do.
Thank you. Or is that
No further questions? Thanks, all. Now, we're going to look at discussion and project voted as there was not. The multiple speakers will be rotated from 2 sides of the discussion. So I'm interpreting that to mean if anyone here for the petition, they should speak now and we'll alternate which one for and against. Is there anyone here who wants to speak at public forum for the petition? Oh, we announced it. Oh, yes.
Verify this is for the petition to recall,
Yes,
and this is open to the forum.
yes. And you're journalist, right? Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is.
Sorry. You have to speak with one of the Nazi urban deal is this being recorded. You need to have that issue with on the agenda or not, because the part point will be that the only lots of issues are questions. Do you agree?
Yes.
Maybe.
All right, I want us to first of all look on the room. Our student population is 32% white, yet I'm not seeing the other marginalized voices in this room. And I want to ask why is this? Because we don't feel safe on campus. We come to campus, we get harassed, we get dogs, and frankly, it is gross. It is gross negligence on behalf of what AS represents. So, there is a very clear tension with the student body, and if the student body is aware of this outside of these walls, this should very clearly be understood by everyone inside. Our very own Chancellor, Chancellor Yang, probably boasts that we are a Hispanic serving institution, yet our center is actively running. And students have to beg for the expansion of the space and effort of student resources. Tesla Vexler's actions during the instance at MCC during February 26th were very clearly antagonistic. I was by her side while she was talking to two members of the DOT board. And when I say there was very clear arrogance and talking down to these students that were trying to compromise. And in instances where we have to compromise on people coming up to us and treating us like we are subhuman, I would like us to really take note of this and be very aware of this growing lack of compassion for our Black and brown students. And through that, there was a conversation about having a meeting afterwards to discuss this lack of representation as the president should. So these students wanted to talk about the harm that has been done to the Black and brown communities, their hate speech and violence, and to this I want to ask, why are Black and brown students time and time again not receiving recognition for the struggles by our against president that is supposed to be representative of us all? I would like to mention that there has been great solidarity between Jewish and Black communities. I'm from New York. I see it everywhere that I don't see here, and that's gross.
It's time.
Senator Shaw? I can speak to this. I just want to ask you, when that that's the best you can run, can't hide. Do you think that might have affected the emotional state of which you interacted with people that put that time there?
I would like to state that a lot of these signs were made after the conversation. So if you were there in the room in the beginning, all of our signs that were up were stating a very clear stance that anti-Zionism does not mean anti-Semitism. We have so many Jewish students that are very clearly against the genocide of Palestinians, and I feel like that answers your question.
I just want to clarify, do other marginalized communities, would you define what hate against them looks like for them? And in particular, would you feel comfortable with me identifying what hate looks like for the community that you belong to?
I'm sure how we would identify the hatred of my community.
Let me clarify my question. You say that anti-Zionism, anti-Semitism, you can say that for sure. I'm just asking, do you generally define what hatred looks like for communities that you're not a part of, or is that confusing?
So the same way that I can speak on your experiences, you cannot speak on mine. My job as someone who's in this community is to uplift the voices of others. I am uplifting the voices of Jewish students that have spoken to us about their uncomfortability with this genocide. And that is all.
Thank you.
Second, Carl.
Is there a motion to 5 minutes?
sign, and Marissa's gonna hold it up, sign your name and the position you are running for, so that way we have an accurate record. Please sign in, so that way I don't have to email you next week, saying that you missed a meeting. Thank you.
We good? Yeah. We are back in session. Next up, we have a guys. Thank you. Perfect. A Jacob Rosen. Good call. Is your mic? Okay, yeah. The audio will be picked up. Okay, I'll say that right at the end. Thank you. You have 2 minutes to speak with 1 minute for Q&A. Please enunciate, refrain from yelling. Please know this meeting is being recorded. You may speak on any issue that's on the agenda or not. You may include a content warning. It will be graphic. You may only come up once. You may choose not to answer questions. And please, when you're speaking, speak into a mic or the Zoom will not be able to hear you. Do you agree?
I agree.
Yes, sir. What he said. Thank you. We appreciate it. You may begin.
Good evening, everybody. I'm here to speak about the attempt to recall Tessa Wexler. I understand that there are many people and associate students that don't see eye to eye with her. However, I believe that anybody who supports recalling Tessa should seriously reconsider. While criticism of an elected official is important and calling them out on something you disagree with is an important way to make change, I believe that this effort to recall Tessa comes not from a place of improving UCSB, rather from deeply rooted anti-Semitism among some members on this campus. Immediately after October 7th, many UCSB students took to social media, glorifying the murder, rape, and kidnapping of Israelis in the name of resistance. Obviously, many in the Jewish community who have friends and family in Israel, Tessa included, rightfully called out the overwhelming support from certain groups on campus towards this blatant support of barbarism, and since that moment, she has been the subject of anti-Semitic ridicule and hate. And before anybody here thinks that this is all anti-Zionism and has nothing to do with anti-Semitism, think again. Tessa has been told, go back to Poland, which may I remind you was where 3 million Jews were systematically murdered during the Holocaust. You can run, but you cannot hide Tessa Wexler, which is a direct threat against her in response to comments that she made about the Israel-Palestine conflict. And Tessa supports genocide. In response to her supporting the existence of a homeland for people who have been genocide in the last 100 years, multiple times. This crowd that has repeatedly sent hate towards Tessa since the start obviously wants her gone out of hate, and we cannot let hate prevail. If anybody here who supports recalling her were to sit down with her and have a genuine conversation about the Israel-Palestine conflict, I assure you, you would see that all she wants is to see better in the world and deserves none of the hate cast towards her. It's important to work with, not against people with whom you disagree. Thank you. I yield and I will not be taking any questions.
Thank you, Jacob. Do we have anyone else for the recall petition? Here or on Zoom? We have Senator Adler not speaking on his own behalf, but on behalf of someone else. That's why he's before people.
How's it going? I'm Jeffrey Adler. I'm a student at UC Santa Barbara. My friend Maggie shared me this statement that she wanted me to read on her behalf. So I'll just.
Before you start, I'm going to read the agreements real quick. You have 2 minutes to speak with 1 minute for Q&A. Please enunciate, refrain from yelling. Please know this meeting is being recorded. You may speak on any issue that is on the agenda or not. Please include content warning. Will be graphic. May only come up once. If you choose not to answer questions, do you agree?
I agree.
Go for it.
I could not be at this meeting tonight. but I feel as though this is the right time to air these concerns despite my physical absence. When the petition to recall Tessa came out, I did not sign it immediately despite my mind begging me to. On the final day of my hunger strike, in the name of resisting this institution's complacency and violence, I had arranged a meeting over Zoom with her. Despite not agreeing with her words or actions, she spoke repeatedly of coalition building and fostering love on campus. I wanted to see if there was any hope of true coalition through my own discernment. I am sure perspectives will clash, but ultimately she and I were both there experiencing the same conversation. I am only relaying my experience, my realizations from it, and would not do so without reason. I saw and still see her just as I see myself, a soul inside of an intelligent organism whose true nature is love. It is how I see all of us. Yet, she only saw the division and could not move beyond it. Within the first few minutes of the call, my motives were deemed anti-Semitic, and from there, I was scolded like a child. There were times when I said, yes, I actually agree with you, and this is why, as my intention was to prove that we both just want love and peace, only for her to further divide us with identity-based talking points. She could not accept that I came from a place of love and wanting the world to be a better place. The conversation, I realized a few minutes into her first offensive rant, unrelated to what I had brought as the topic to be discussed, would be futile. She questioned why a movement like this, referencing the hunger strike and demands, did not appear when the signs were put up about her in the Multicultural Center. I don't think I need to elaborate on that for you to see my frustration. She told me what I was doing wouldn't make Israel stop and, quote, wouldn't do anything. She lamented how the hunger strike was affecting her and how she's receiving so much hate. I only sat letting her finish without interruption while knowing her intention for this conversation would never be anything other than to chastise me and position herself at the center. Little of what she had to say was anything I had not already heard from her public statements. When I think of who I wanted representing me as a student, it is not someone who refuses to see the soul beyond the identity. I suppose if I pretended that the injustice of this world...
Sorry.
We don't want to finish the statement from the hunger strike person.
If someone asks a question, floor is open. Senator Wing.
Certainly, Senator Wing. When I think of who I want representing me as a student, it is not someone who refuses to see the soul beyond the identity. I suppose if I pretended the injustice of the world didn't hurt my heart so much to the point of willing starvation, submitting into agreement with all her views, and betraying my true feelings in order to appease her, she may not have been so defensive and actually spoken with me. In thinking of that, going that route, it reminded me of my abusive ex and the way I would betray myself to keep the peace. If peace is what you want to reap, Tessa, it is not within the seeds you're sowing. And for that reason, I signed the petition immediately after our call. It has nothing to do with the nuances of your identity, but rather it is you do not realize that you are so much more. When one cannot see beyond themselves, they truly cannot see others. You must truly love yourself before you can truly love others. It may be naive and wishful, but I want a leader that is not afraid to love. From dust we are born, and from dust we will return. And I only wish to leave this life from the path of love rather than from the path of division. Thank you, Maggie Mudovsky.
Thank you, Senator. That's time. Next, we have Aaliyah. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. I'm assuming they're against, but I'll still make sure. Hi, Leah, you have 2 minutes to speak, but with 1 minute for a Q&A. Please enunciate, refrain from yelling. Please know this meeting is being recorded. You may speak on any issue that was on the agenda or not. Please include content word if you'll be graphic. You may only come up once, and you may choose not to answer questions. Do you agree?
Yes.
You may begin.
Okay, hi. I don't have anything specifically prepared, but I want to talk a little bit about Tessa and how she represents me specifically. So a little bit about me. I'm Jewish. I'm a first-year student here at UCSB, and my parents are immigrants from Iran. So I'm a first-generation American, and coming here and navigating that has been really difficult. In addition to that, I'm a girl. I'm a female, and seeing other females in positions of power like Tessa has been one of the most inspiring things ever, being a first year, coming to UCSB, being away from my family, being immersed in this scary new place as a college student, as a first-generation American, as someone who don't have parents who went to college in the US, seeing that has been the most inspiring thing ever. In addition to that, I want to talk a little bit about what happened in the MCC and the hostility that came from that. When you see signs specifically targeting someone like Tessa Vexler supports genocide, or Tessa, you can run but you can't hide, the targeting of a student, doesn't matter her position, doesn't matter who they are, is disgusting. And of course, whoever is targeted in that way is going to come at like that, like with a little bit more tension, because we talk about love and peace, but there was no peace in that room in that day. Specifically, there was a poster that said F peace. So how are we supposed to foster conversations with love and understanding and communication, which I know that each and every single person in this room wants to do? But when we are targeted and when we are specifically attacked, and when we walk around campus, people knowing our name and chanting at us and calling for violence against us, how are we supposed to approach this with love and peace, which we all want to do? It is such a challenging issue, and to recall someone for that who faced this disgusting attack, personal attack, and remove a person.
That's time. Yeah, thank you. Will you be taking questions?
Yes.
Floor is open.
Yes, I just want to quickly sum it up by saying that removing a person from power, a female Jewish person from power, sends a disgusting message, not just to the people here at UCSB, but to people, students, Jewish and female students all over the United States, that a person who is Jewish and a woman in power is not accepted. And that is not okay, and that will not stand, and we will not let that stand. Thank you.
Any questions? Next, we would need someone for the petition. I don't think we have any more people for the petition. There are?
There's a
Okay.
hand raised on Zoom.
Excellent. Could you read the hand name out to me, Holly? Okay, whatever.
Whoever just had their hand raised, if you could raise your hand again, please, if you'd like to speak.
Holly, would you mind sharing the public forum list with the Zoom?
Yes, I can do that again. Yeah, whoever had their hand raised, they have since lowered it. So if you'd like to move on, that is fine.
Okay, I'm gonna move on to the next on this list, and then we will continue with the Zoom list afterwards.
The rule states we have to rotate between for and against the petition, so we can now do what the MVP just said.
Heard? Finish on up.
If I may, Senator, the rules say the public forum speaker should be rotated from two sides of the discussion, not that they will. And since there is no one else appears from that side of the discussion, I think that the should here is a weaker statement than shall. And that's why I'm always precise on my legal language.
I think the senator has a good point. It's my interpretation. We can continue, but we should go back to Zoom when the opportunity presents itself. So next we have Nathan Nasseri. Nathan, you have 2 minutes to speak with 1 minute for Q&A. Please enunciate, refrain from yelling. Please know this meeting is being recorded. You may speak on any issue that's on the agenda or not. Please include content warning, will be graphic, may only come once. You may choose not to answer questions. Do you agree?
Yes.
Hit it.
Okay. Sorry, my voice is gone because of Deltopia, but to the proponents of the petition to recall Tessa Wexler. Hello, my name is Nathan Nasseri, and I'm co-chair of the Jewish Commission this year. You probably haven't heard about me because I'm not as loud as Tom about it, but I am here. With spring election 2 weeks away, there is no reason to raise a recall petition. The only reason why proponents of the recall petition have put it forth is because this petition serves as a petty last-ditch effort to showcase the writer's anti-Semitism. This petition to recall Tessa Wexler has 0 grounds. The Instagram account, Recall Tessa Wexler, alleges that her presidency has increased divisions on campus. This is a lie. If you are blaming a Jewish student for your anti-Semitic actions, then maybe you are the problem. Maybe you need to reflect on how to have a productive dialogue that doesn't involve excluding Jewish students from public spaces on campus, or that doesn't involve leaving pennies outside of a Jewish student's dorm room, or telling a student to go back to Poland. Maybe you can come talk to us about how Jewish students really feel before assuming that we're all monsters. In other words, stop blaming Tessa for your problem. Stop trying to justify this recall petition by saying that the climate on campus is the fault of one person. Call it what it is. This recall petition, one that is brought 2 weeks before the next election, is a sloppy, petty, poorly written excuse for using anti-Semitism to scapegoat a Jewish student for all the times that they've been wronged. I'll tell you right now, if you want campus climate to really get better, targeting Jewish students is not the way to do it. If you really want to improve campus climate, come talk to me, Tom, or literally anybody involved in Jewish student leadership, and then let's talk. Vote no on this petition. Thank you. No questions.
Yeah. Nathan, will you be taking questions? It's not, Senator Shalanoff?
I reserve my right. In recognition of the fact that there's no one on the respondent's side or the petitioner's side who's spoken yet, I'd like to extend public forum to include one more speaker from the petitioner's side, and then end it here. It would end at 9:45 otherwise. Like gut check, is that what people want? Okay. Motion to extend public forum for the duration necessary to accommodate one speaker.
Second.
There's been a motion to extend public forum by one more speaker, second by Senator Zell. We're now in discussion. I call the question, objection, call the question. Are you consent? Are you consent, objection, consent? Seeing none, motion passes. I do see a question in the audience. Do you want to shout it? I mean, I see you on the list. Yeah, go for it. That works for me. Go for us. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. Senator Rowe?
I do understand that, but we have to be out of the room at 10:50 still. So I think it would be in the best interest of time to continue with the 9:45.
Senator Carlson?
Just to quickly reiterate, I think it'd be smart to do it for two speakers, one on Zoom, one in the room that we have with us, and then we can run it back and go as fast as possible. I yield.
And just to add on that, since we just had two speakers against the petition, the next two speakers should all be filed the petition. A motion to extend the public forum by two speakers.
Second.
There's been a... We're now in discussion. Senator Rowe? Senator Shalanoff? Motion's been presented. Senator Shalanoff?
Motion to extend the public forum for the duration necessary to accommodate one additional speaker.
There's been a motion to extend public forum by one additional speaker for a total of two additional speakers. Is there a second? Second by Senator Zhao. We're now in discussion. I call the question, technical question. Consent, objection, consent. Seeing none, motion passes. Okay. Okay, we're gonna go on Lily on Zoom first and then you. Sorry. Lily, you have 2 minutes to speak with 1 minute for Q&A. Please enunciate, refrain from yelling. Please know this meeting is being recorded. You may speak on any issues on the agenda or not. Please include a content warning if it will be graphic. You may only come up once and may choose to not answer questions. Do you agree, Lily?
Yes, I agree.
You may begin.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lily. I'm a third-year Jewish student at UC Santa Barbara, and I am also an anti-Zionist. And I just want to make it clear that Zionism and Judaism are not mutually exclusive. This is a well-known fact in any academic space. You can look this up on the internet. Zionism is a political ideology started by Theodore Herzl in the 1800s, if you want to look that up as well. It is not integral to Jewish identity. And frankly, I am deeply offended that senators here have insinuated that anyone signing the recall petition is an anti-Semite, because that would make me anti-Semitic towards myself, which is not possible. I am a proud Jewish woman, and I do not support the doxing of primarily POC students who are also women by the president. And that is why she is being recalled, not because of anti-Semitism. It would not make sense because I'm a Jewish student who voted yes on the recall. I would like to add that she also took the opportunity of added traction to her Instagram account to promote selling jewelry from various other accounts, which she earned profit off of. And frankly, I think everyone who has stated that anti-Semitism and Zionism or anti-Semitism is a result of anti-Zionism is misspoken. And I really think that you guys should talk to a rabbi. thank you. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Lily. Will you be taking questions?
Yes, I'm happy to take any questions.
Senator Shalnoff?
Hi, Lily. Thanks for coming to speak with us. I have two questions. We're going to condense it, just ask them back up to back. My first question is, whom did President Wexler dox and how? And my second question is, in the upcoming holiday of Pesach, at the end of it, does your family not have the tradition to say next year in Jerusalem?
So the first question I can easily answer. The account Israel War Room posted a Instagram post that had names, full names, personal information, documentation status, which is absolutely inappropriate. And the president reposted this onto her story. She did comment that they would please take it down, but by reposting a doxing, you are actually leading your audience to find all of the information on the doxing, which causes more problems for the individuals who were doxed. So that is doxing. That did happen. So I'm not sure about that. I think it's very strange for you to ask about my family's Pesach tradition. Again, like the identity politics of deciding who is Jewish enough is very inappropriate. And frankly, I think it's strange that you asked this question, but we can go back to the Torah if you want, where Jerusalem and Israel are always considered to be an idea, and the identity of the Jewish people is not a land. The word diaspora originated from Judaism and the spread of the Jewish people throughout the world. If you need any more education on that, I'm happy to send you some links.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Lily, for speaking.
Hi, everyone. Oh, God, that's loud. My name is Chayla Moon Erickson Bronio. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a fifth year ES and Soch major. Oh, that's really hard to follow up. She was fun. But basically, yeah, I'm also a Polish Jew. Oh, need to read me the things. Yeah.
Point of order, really fast. What's your name?
Chayla?
Can you spell your first and last?
It's Caela. I'm on the list. I wanted to talk about the food bank cart, but here we are.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, my family also fled the Soviet Union, and I voted for the petition to recall Tessa Wexler. I don't think I'm an anti-Semite. I guess you could call me a self-hating Jew, if that's what you feel like doing. But I think that, I guess Lily kind of said it, but that the recall petition for Tessa has a lot more to do with the fact that she doxed 10 of her own constituents in response to feeling personally attacked. I think that is not representative of someone being a good civil servant. I think the fact that Tessa ran on the tagline of "Make this year the best year of my life" is indicative of the fact that she's not a good civil servant. I think we should be talking about what makes someone a good civil servant. I think talking about her identity as a Jewish woman is frankly like embarrassing. And it feels like you guys are kind of trying to use that to, I don't know, cover up the fact that she's a bad civil servant. So I think that's what this recall petition is about for me, personally, and that's why I signed it. And Tessa Wexler doesn't represent me. Thank you. I won't be taking questions. She did also sell necklaces on her Instagram after, after the thing happened, and that's really tacky. Thank you.
Thank you, Chayla. You said no questions? Okay. That concludes public forum. Senator Shalnoff?
Motion to enter action items to discuss the recall petition of President Tessa Wexler.
There's been a motion to enter action items to discuss the recall petition of Tessa Wexler. Is there a second? Second by Senator Zhao. We're not in discussion. Already called the question. Objection to call the question. Already consent. Objection to consent. Seeing none, motion passes. Okay. Now we would be moving into, as part of the rules that we agreed on, representatives of the petitioner and ASOP may choose to give a 15-minute speech statement before the end of right before or after the end of public forum to outline the reasons for and against the petition. So basically, Tessa, would you like to give your report now?
Do I have to agree to any?
No,
Do I have to? Oh, I don't want to hold it this close. Can you hear me fine?
Yes, we can.
Okay. When I was elected AS president in May 2023, I cried tears of joy, honor, and disbelief. As a daughter of immigrants and a young woman going through college, it was monumental that I was given the opportunity to take on one of the most significant responsibilities a student can have. A few weeks after my election, 2 articles were released on the same day. The first, unapologetically Jewish. First Shabbat observant student body president elected at the University of California, Santa Barbara. The second, student Tessa Wexler and other students visit Israel and the United Arab Emirates, 2 nations with good relations. Why was this significant? It was significant because it proved that my Jewishness, my passion for the Middle East, and my ability to be a leader were not mutually exclusive. In fact, they complemented each other. Nobody could have predicted October 7th, or what its aftershocks would do to change the world and our small corner of it. I remember waking up that Saturday in Shabbat bliss. No phone buzzing, no social media. But my housemates turned to me and said, "Tessa, there's a war in Israel." I said, "I've been there for 2 of them." They said, "This one's different," and proceeded to explain the atrocities coming out of what became the worst massacre of Jews since the Holocaust. I remember thinking, maybe this is it. Maybe this is what it takes for people to finally realize why we need a Jewish home and why anti-Semitism is such a prevalent threat against the Jewish people. I was heartbroken days later when I found out I was wrong. On October 7th, 2023, the terrorist group Hamas invaded Israel and perpetrated the deadliest anti-Semitic attack on Jews since the Holocaust. On October 9th, I posted on my personal Instagram account an expression of support for the victims. My post conveyed the trauma I was experiencing in the aftermath of one of the deadliest pogroms committed against Jews. It expressed solidarity as a Jew with the Jewish people worldwide. Ever since my post of solidarity, I've been targeted, harassed, defamed, and threatened based on my shared Jewish ancestry and ethnicity. I've been taken aback by the hatred and pure obsession over me and my role, distributing flyers in the middle of the night calling for my recall, endlessly harassing me in my DMs, graffitiing my name on bathroom walls, and refusing to work with me because you have narrowed down my identity to a dirty Zionist. These are all dangerous symptoms of anti-Semitism. To those who say that it's because I'm a Zionist and not because I'm a Jew, you have a problem. Listen up. Zionism is as integral to Judaism as observing the Jewish Sabbath or maintaining a kosher diet. Of course, not all Jews observe the Sabbath or keep kosher, but those who do clearly are expressing essential components of their Jewish identity. Similarly, not all Jews are Zionists. But for most Jews, including many Jewish students at UCSB like myself, identifying with and expressing support for the Jewish homeland is also a sincerely and deeply felt expression of their Jewish identity. Harassing, marginalizing, demonizing, and excluding these Jewish students based on the Zionist component of their Jewish identity is just as discriminatory as attacking a Jewish student for observing the Sabbath or keeping kosher. I've always been a strong proponent of putting myself in uncomfortable, challenging situations in order to learn. As an observant Jewish person, it would have been much easier not to have to explain to my colleagues that I couldn't attend an event on a Saturday or why I couldn't eat the catering at an event I was invited to because it wasn't kosher.
I did student government because I knew two things to be true. I had to be a proud Jewish leader that my peers would look up to, and I wanted to make an impact on the non-Jewish community in a way that my Jewish community would be proud of. This petition is just a hate campaign. It is useless and predicated on lies. When we are a mere 2 weeks away from electing new leadership for Associated Students, it should be more evident than ever before that this recall effort is an anti-Semitic attempt at character assassination aimed to harm, alienate, and persecute me as a Jewish student on this campus. Meanwhile, a counter-petition started by UCSB Jewish students in my defense has now gained over 15,000 signatures, demonstrating the gravity of this situation and the importance of standing up for Jewish people everywhere, regardless of whether or not they are the type of Jew that you want them to be. Let's say you don't believe that my support for Israel's existence is a part of my Jewish identity, since non-Jews have recently felt emboldened to define what is and isn't. If my support for a Jewish state is purely political, is it then okay to remove me from my role because you disagree with my politics? The point is, I've always been here. I've raised money, built coalitions, supported marginalized groups, created programming, and so much more during my time here. I don't deserve to have hate directed at me in this way, or for my identity to be diminished to one single opinion that I have. An opinion that I have because it is inextricably linked to my survival. People are listening to me right now, and they will not hear me back down or see me cower in the face of such blatant anti-Semitism. I will not give up my beliefs for anyone. You can harass me, intimidate me, recall me, but it won't result in a less proudly Jewish Tessa Wexler. It may make me even louder and more successful because my people have embedded this in my bones, and I am not going anywhere. I will be taking questions.
That was my next question. Floor is open.
Yeah.
Senator Zah?
Hi.
Hi, President Wexler. I prepared a statement about the petition, but I'll read it when it comes to chance of Senate discussion. I want to ask you a question about the allegation made against you of doxing students. What's your response?
Yeah. So the post that was posted on Israel War Room was horrific. And the second that I heard about it, I had a knee-jerk reaction to post a statement. And I'm happy to send that post to the Senate if they would like to review it. But it was the post and it was covered. And it was because I wanted people to know what I was talking about so they could go and they could report the post. So in my story, I had written a caption for it. And I said, this doxing is wrong. It's disgusting. We need to get this post taken down. And I stand doxing against all students everywhere. Within 10 minutes of it being up, someone messaged me and said, I get what you're trying to do, but actually posting this post is harmful. And I made a mistake because I'm a human. And I immediately deleted it and I posted my statement just about the doxing without the repost. And I was actually the person that got it taken down by contacting Israel War Room through my private contacts and figuring out a way to get it down. So I'm the one who contacted them 15 billion times, got it taken down, and then also made a post condemning the doxing. And I would also like to point out that within that same week, someone posted my phone number online. Okay, so I am against doxing at all times and in all forms. And I just would like to acknowledge that I've also been a victim of it, and I would never wish it upon anybody else. And I'm a human and I made a mistake, and I completely acknowledge that I could have inherently caused harm to those students by reposting it for the time being that it was up. And I am sorry.
Thank you, Ms. President. Floor is open for questions. Senator Adler?
How's it going, Madam President? I don't know. I'm tired, to be honest. I feel like a lot of people in this room are tired. I guess I'll start with a question like, do you think it's the job of the student body president to promote safe campus discourse at all times?
Yes.
Okay. I'm glad that we agree on
I
that.
also believe that it is not the responsibility of one individual to control public discourse, and I believe that we need to place responsibility on every single student on this campus for the climate that they create.
For sure. But you would agree, like, as student body president, you have like a pretty outsized influence on our campus discourse, like, right?
I think that there's also power in numbers. You're again placing a lot of power into one individual's hands. I believe that there's a lot of power in a group of students who put a sign saying you can run, but you can't hide Tessa Vexler. I believe that was pretty harmful, and it was done, by a group of individuals. So we can debate back and forth whether or not you think that's more impactful.
Yeah, no, I agree that was a pretty bad look. And I went, as I said last meeting when we were speaking, I talked to those responsible and I said that was horrible and not called for. Speaking of the last meeting, I'm glad to see a lot of familiar faces coming out supporting. Last time I spoke to you, I made every good faith attempt, I feel like, to bring up an issue that I thought was really important that we discuss, because in my mind, being a campus leader, and I talked about this in relation to what Tom said on his post, being a campus leader needs to permeate all aspects of our discourse. And so when I asked you about your affiliation with Jacob Boehm, and of course, I don't want to, please people just take the words as they come out of my mouth. In the 6 weeks that I've informed you about your professional contacts, affiliation, harassing and doxing Palestinian students, have you investigated that at all? Have you
Did you
looked
listen
into it?
to the interview I did with KCSB where they asked me this question?
No, what did you
Okay,
say?
my response was that a lot of the people that I work with, a lot of the people that I follow on social media are not necessarily people that I agree with. I still follow Israel War Room. And it's not because I agree with the fact that they dox students. It's because it's important to follow accounts that you disagree with. It's important to not escape cognitive dissonance when it faces you. It's important to be aware of the things that are circulating and the messaging that people in my circles are sharing. I don't stand by a lot of the things that my friends in the Jewish and pro-Israel communities do. But if I don't follow them, how am I going to stand up against them? How am I going to disagree? How am I going to share an alternative narrative if I don't know the one that I'm up against? So I do affiliate. And again, I asked you this privately, but it's unfair to go into every single person that I'm friends with, have ever affiliated myself with. I don't see you do you do that to your colleagues in private meetings? I don't know. Do you go to every person in an elected role and ask them who they're affiliated with? Because I have a lot of affiliations we can talk about. I can send you some articles.
Okay, thank you for the response. I mean, keep in mind,
Order.
oh,
I apologize. I don't think the intent of the speaking period for the petitioner and the accused is for a Q&A.
okay. Is there like any other questions that we think are more relevant that anyone has, or?
Please ask me questions about what this is, and ask me to clarify things and give me the opportunity to respond. If you're going to be voting on something this big that has to do with me, this back and forth is completely useless. It's pretty clear where your mind is with this. You have an opinion. Whether nothing that I say right now is going to change what you think. Yes.
Okay, can I just
So
pivot
let's
my
move on.
question? I think this is pretty relevant for discussion, but I'll move on. You think you've done a good job as
Wait,
president?
point of order,
Yeah,
point of order.
Oh,
Senator Adler, I should have made this point of order earlier. It's not about the line of discussion. I simply don't think that this discussion itself fits into either the time we have or the structure of the rules we structured. I understand, like, in hindsight, we should have had a Q&A period, but we simply don't. So if you want to wrap this up, and then we can get out of here. Thank you.
Wait,
Yeah.
so we're not answering questions?
There isn't a Q&A accommodated for in the rules that we agreed for this discussion, which is an oversight. We could amend those rules, but in the interest of time anyway, we
If
should
there
probably
are
move this
any
quickly.
questions about the petition, can you please ask me, and I'm happy to discuss with you privately or at another Senate meeting.
okay.
I
Can
wanna
ask
make
a question about the petition. If you stand by your actions as student body president and you believe that you've been an overall benefit to our campus community, why not have the student body reaffirm your commitment to the school by going to a vote? Why have it stop here?
Because they're not voting on my competence as a leader. They're not voting on whether or not I'm a competent or good student body president. They're voting on whether or not they agree with my opinion about the existence of a Jewish state that's inherently linked to my Jewish identity. So it has nothing to do with evaluating my presidency. None of these people could probably list a single event that I've put on or a single community that I've helped. or any of the 3 years of work that I've poured into Associated Students. This job is incredibly challenging, and I think you know that. And I think that I have poured in a lot of effort to be in this role. I care very deeply about it. I stay up late nights trying to help students. I care about it a lot. I wouldn't still be standing here after 6 months of being harassed if I didn't care about this position and care about helping students and care about the community that I know I represent. So I don't believe that it has anything to do with that. I think it's a hate campaign, to answer your question.
Okay. I think you have a poor estimate of the student body, but I'll forego my questions.
Hi, President Vexler. Thanks for coming to speak. My question is in regards to, I guess, the doxing up by Israel War Room.
Mhm.
I understand that it was a mistake. However, when I first saw that post, I felt honestly sick to my stomach.
Me too.
And my question to you is, have you done anything in regards
Point
to
of
the
order.
students who were doxed?
To the chair, point of order. My point of order was that no questions fit within the framework we've set
Okay,
out for
okay.
this period.
I think
We can amend the rules that we've created and adopted.
They're not.
I think we should
I
amend the
don't see
rules.
it that way, and it's fine. If it's the rules that you've established, then it's the rules you've established. It's fine.
I suggest the chair to overrule the point of order as the discussion is in the public interest.
For the sake of time, if I cut Wang off on this question, are we going to amend the rules immediately to allow questions? Is that the Senate's plan? Senator Solnoff?
I think questions are a good idea. I think we should have it in the rules. I think you should ask your question. I think we should move on. We have 40 minutes until we're leaving this room. Every senator needs to speak at least 3 times according to these rules if they want to. We don't have time if we go into a Q&A. That is what I'm saying. Thank you.
I'm going to overrule the objection just so you can finish your question, then we'll move on.
You finish your question.
Well, just to finish my question, have you done anything to reach out to the students who were doxxed to restore that harm that was caused to the students that
Yeah.
were doxxed?
So in terms of like restoring, there is nothing that can really be done once something like that, something that horrible has happened. But I have worked diligently with administration to try to figure out ways that we can prevent it in the future. And I haven't personally reached out to every single individual student, and maybe that's something that I should have done. And it's something that I'm still willing to do if that's something that, you know, I think would be useful. The MCC, to be honest, I was more focused on trying to get the MCC opened because that was also a demand that was being given, that it was stopping a lot of marginalized groups from using a space that they had relied on. But I have not individually reached out to every single student. I guess I've been working on the bigger picture.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator. We have finished the Q&A or the discussion, Peter. Yeah. So shall we begin the petition discussion? Thank you, Mr. President. Okay, right before we enter the discussion, I would like a legal opinion from the Attorney General on 2 matters. Hey, could you come up? Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you, appreciate it. I have 2 questions for you, and I'm sure the Senate has more. First question is, I understand you have a legal opinion you'd like to give about the petition as a whole. And my second is, would it be legally acceptable if I gave a recommendation on this petition?
I don't have a problem with you giving your opinion on this situation.
Thank you. And did you have a legal opinion on the petition as a whole, or would you just like to be around for the question?
I guess I'll go right now because
That'd be
that would
great.
make
Thank
sense.
you. Yeah. Oh, 15 minutes for them. AG's already here. Is it fine if AG goes first and then we go pro petition? Or would you prefer if legal opinions were afterwards? Afterwards? Okay, Jessica, I'm so sorry. We'll grab you in a second. Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. Okay, so we have 15 minutes for. I feel like we just did this. No. The rules state representatives of the petitioner and ASOP may choose to give 15 minutes each for like a pro and con.
So I suppose this would be 15 minutes on behalf of the petitioner, if that makes sense. Sort of. It's from the petitioner and from ASOP. That's for the rules that were agreed on. Where is the petitioner speaking? Are they speaking now soon? Okay,
Yes, they are.
Excellent. I guess you may begin. You have 15 minutes.
Hello, my name is Roisin Kyo, and I am one of the people who helped sponsor the recall petition. This has been in process since fall quarter. I personally did not have an issue after Tessa was very reasonably and responsibly sharing her side and her sentiment and showing like representing her community. My issue stood when she began to fail to address the very present Islamophobia and anti-Arab discrimination on campus while being very vocal about the very present anti-Semitism that has been on campus. Because of this and continued polarization and divide between students, and without speaking and truly trying to represent the student population here, which is what her job is as a student body president, and the continued speaking on behalf of the UCSB population in a derogatory, shameful way, I think was not okay as her role. Overall, that is why, sorry, I was not prepared very well, but I want to just speak that this was not anything to do. She was a known Jew before. That was not an issue. Many people support. Sorry, I did not prepare this well. I'm gonna stop there.
Thank you. Would the other petitioner like to speak? You have another 13 minutes. You don't have to use it all.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
My name is Isabella. As stated before, I've heard a lot of people talking about how there's only 2 weeks left until the spring election and how this means that we shouldn't go through with the recall petition. But as stated before, this has been in the works since fall quarter. It's just been really hard to get it to go through with everything that's been happening with the elections board. Originally, this wanted to be started after not seeing equal representation in my eyes. I had asked alumni from 2012 and 2016 and my own uncle who had gone here, his thoughts on people's opinions being deleted or people being blocked after they had differing opinions on certain topics. And they had said that they had never seen this from a president before, and they had asked if this was even allowed. But I just thought that, well, if a president was really representing their students, or if they really wanted to represent their students all equally, they wouldn't really do this. And I just thought that it wasn't really the best way to go about things. And I also wanted to say that I'm in AS, and my commission, I've never interacted with Tessa, but I have interacted a great deal with the IVP, Soham Kalia, and he's been very, very involved with my commission. And I would love to see a president who's as involved as Soham is. So I'd just like to say that this would be a great president to have, in my opinion. But yeah.
You guys care if I speak to that? No? You sure? Words. Thank you, Isabella. I guess that concludes the petitioner side. Yeah, let's just move on. Okay. Would the Attorney General like to give their opinion now? Where they go? Yes, Senator Shalnov?
I will shorten. Hello, everyone. Hope you all are well. I understand the Senate is considering the petition to recall President Vexler tonight. I want to explain the complexity of this recall petition in regards to the AS Constitution. True consideration of this petition demands a nuanced understanding of AS constitutional rights. I'm also addressing the Senate to transparently express the Office of Attorney General's intention to file a judicial council case to fairly and duly examine these unique circumstances in the case this recall petition is approved by the Senate. The following is our legal opinion. Article 2, Policy G of the AS Constitution enshrines the principle that all students, inclusive of elected officials, are entitled to protections from discrimination and harassment. I'm going to quote that now. All students shall have the right to be free from discrimination and harassment on the basis of race, gender, sex, ethnicity, religion, national origin, disability, sexual orientation, status within or outside the university, or political belief in all activities sponsored or conducted by the university, its affiliates, ASUCSB, or campus student groups. ASUCSB shall not pass any bill or resolution that discriminates against students, nor support any entity that discriminates against students. This protection spans across various grounds such as ethnicity, religion, political beliefs, and status within or outside the university, emphasizing the commitment of ASUCSBs and its affiliates to uphold these values in all their sanctioned activities. This clause underscores the Senate's duty to interpret and apply the Constitution in a manner that fiercely and fervently protects these rights. Article 6 of the Constitution lays down the constitutional foundation for a recall of elected officials and its procedure. There are no explicit limitations for why an elected official may be subject to a recall election. This vagueness requires a careful, principle-based interpretation, especially in scenarios where the reasons for recall intersect with protected characteristics or beliefs. The current petition for President Vexler's recall, while lacking a clear rationale or statement, demonstrates significant documentation and campaign materials circulating campus, Isla Vista mailboxes, and social media. Substantial rhetoric attributes President Vexler's espoused Zionism as a potential reason for her attempted removal. This poses a unique challenge for associated students. The federal government, University of California, and ASUCSB operate under the IRA definition of anti-Semitism. It is important that we understand the depth of this definition. I can't go through all of it right now for the sake of time, but denying to the Jewish people an opportunity or any position under any of these circumstances against federal law. This definition describes anti-Semitic manifestations as charging Jews as conspiring to harm humanity, or often blaming Jews for why things go wrong. These manifestations are expressed in speech, writing, visual forms, and action, and employ sinister stereotypes and negative character traits. Again, I won't go through all of them, but I encourage you guys to look at the definition. It's really extensive. For many within the Jewish community, Zionism is deeply entwined within their ethnic and religious identity, a perspective personally endorsed by President Vexler. However, the Office of the Attorney General also understands and recognizes that this conception of Jewish identity is not shared by all Jewish people or individuals. For many, Zionism falls more closely along the lines of political belief or ideology rather than any religious or ethnic identity. However, even in the case that Zionism is interpreted as purely a political stance, the AS Constitution also protects President Vexler from being harassed or discriminated against on the basis of her political affiliations under the AS Constitution in Article 2. The fundamental legal question here is, does this recall initiative, largely motivated by President Vexler's Zionism, constitute an impermissible act of discrimination based on either religious, ethnic, or political beliefs? The Office of the Attorney General believes it is imperative that these legal conditions and constitutional interpretations are considered. We intend on filing with the Judicial Council to conduct a comprehensive legal assessment as needed. Furthermore, to abide by Article 2, the Senate must ensure there's no bill or resolution passed that permits discrimination and harassment to any student. This is a responsibility the Senate should not hold lightly. In the case that the Senate chooses to vote, I advise the Senate to carefully and thoughtfully consider legal standards presented in the Constitution, as well as the implications for further legal scrutiny before voting upon this recall petition. I also advise the Senate to consider an intermediate decision regarding these legal arguments, such as pausing or suspending next steps on this matter until Judicial Council review. That's all.
Could you reiterate that last part?
I also advise the Senate to consider an intermediate decision regarding these legal arguments, such as pausing or suspending next steps on this matter until Judicial Council can review. If you guys so please, it's just an option.
Understood. Thank you. Are there any questions for the Attorney General, or should we get into discussion? Senator Carlson?
Good evening, Jessica. Thank you so much for coming. One of my questions is that the idea of the election, even if it's motivated with anti-Semitic intent, what I'm wondering is that the recall elections parameters are broad because they're not trying to define the motivations by which people introduce recall elections. What I'm wondering is that if anybody were to have a political disagreement with a candidate, not necessarily Tessa Wexler, not necessarily anybody at the room, but I'm saying if anybody disagreed with anybody, wouldn't a quote unquote discrimination by political affiliation and then carried out through the means of a recall election be unconstitutional by our standards? I think that if we were to go by this definition, any political disagreement would be viewed as political discrimination. And I don't think that's necessarily the case here. I yield.
According to the AS Constitution, discrimination, which in the AS Constitution, it is a very broad definition for discrimination and harassment. In a lot of federal documents, political beliefs is not really protected against discrimination, but in this case, it is. So it's a very interesting case. It's really nuanced. There's no definition, no restriction on why someone can be recalled, but at the same time, you also have to uphold those discrimination values. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you so much, Attorney General Hellman. Thank you.
Floor is open.
Senator Adler?
Thanks for coming to speak, Jessica. So just to go off of Senator Carlson's question, just to push those bounds, say for the sake of argument, and no one please misconstrue anything, if we're going to push the bounds of that political discrimination idea, if the student body elected a Nazi and we, I don't know, didn't like that they were a Nazi, would that also fall under the political discrimination idea you set out? Or like, what's the distinction?
Point. Hypothetically, UCSB elects a Nazi. Okay, hold on, let me think. I honestly, I just feel like I can't answer that question because I can't even envision that happening. And I honestly don't want to envision that
Sorry,
happening.
the whole point of the hypothetical is to test the bounds of the logical conclusion, because as Senator Carlson just pointed out, if we were to say anybody holding any political belief is immune from a recall, then the no recall could happen under any circumstances. So say the most insane political belief was upheld, that's my question to you. It is outside the bounds of, you know, possibility.
I understand. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. I understand what you're trying to point out here, but I think that we should really just focus on the situation right now, because the fact is that political beliefs are protected from discrimination and harassment. That's point blank period. That's what it says. And I think that we should keep it to this, because you can debate all you want with judicial counsel about what you think about political beliefs being in the Constitution. I think it's a really interesting clause myself, but I'm not here to argue that. I'm here to tell you what it says and how it's applied in this case. So.
For the sake of time, I'd like to move on to discussion now. We're dangerously short. Senator Solnoff?
Thank you, everybody. If I've been asked for your attention, please, for just a moment, I'll be as brief as I possibly can, and then obviously we'll go around the room. And I appreciate you giving me the chance to open this discussion with the Senate. I think that basically there are two separate issues and two separate votes. The first is on the topic of the petition itself and its affirmation as an entity. The second is whether or not a recall election should be held. The first question is a question of fact. The second question is a question of policy. I hope that it's abundantly clear that a recall election, regardless of any circumstance, is detrimental to the general election because it will confuse the student body. It's not a normal process to hold simultaneous recall. A recall of what, right? During the same process as we're having a general election to elect the president. It creates an extremely strange situation. And I think from a policy perspective, ignoring every other issue, this is a huge reason to keep in mind. But from a kind of broader perspective, I want to speak, maybe I guess summarize. Since I joined AS, when Tessa in winter quarter of my freshman year told me that I should apply for the ad hoc committee to fill a vacancy, I started working on financial mismanagement. We have a bill in old business named after that old committee. And since then, I've worked on many things. It feels like I spent half of my time talking about being Jewish. Who else at this table spends half of their time talking about their identity? When I tell you that I don't want to talk about it a single other, like this is just completely dominating every single thing that I do. I can't even go outside without like somebody addressing the fact that I'm some big bad Zionist or something. And I want to point out that this is 1,000 times worse for Tessa because she has even more visibility. But I want to point out the absurdity of the fact that a private person, a human being, has to constantly, incessantly define, redefine their identity, argue with people over what constitutes hate. Like, does no one have anything else to talk about? Like, which of you at this table have done something for the Senate or AS this week? Like, be honest with yourself and think about it. And I hope and I pray that most of you have your hand up in your mind, but yes, Mingjin, you have. But the point is that like we incessantly return to this talking point. And the fact of the matter is that the fact that the Jewish community drags themselves out to a Senate meeting, what feels like every other week, to stand up just for the basic decency of having their voice heard is absurd. It's offensive. And I think it points to a toxic relationship with Jews on this campus. And I think that the recall petition against President Wexler is obviously ridiculous. I think that because Senator Adler, you've been one of the most vocal proponents, and we directly address you. I think that there are certainly points that you have that are worth airing. There is something to be said for speaking, truth to power. There's definitely accountability needs to be held. I will speak honestly that President Wexler and myself have had many disagreements. We disagree all the time. That doesn't mean that my recourse is to recall her. She's done a fantastic job as president, and she has done that job not despite her Judaism, but because of her Judaism and because of her Zionism and because of the community of people that are with her. I think that the facts at play here are fairly clear. There are a lot of UCs, 7 with undergraduates on their campuses. If you think that President Wexler is responsible for the campus climate here, I urge you to visit UCLA. I urge you to visit UC Berkeley. I urge you to visit UC Davis or UC Santa Cruz. I urge you to visit any other college in this country. That is a ridiculous charge. And it's obviously a ridiculous charge. Every single time I see President Wexler post something about Jews or Israel, I think it's too reserved. I think she's holding back. And I think she's doing that because she recognizes that she's in a position of public scrutiny and in a position to represent a huge community. And I think that's very important to recognize that there's a balance there. But think about the absurdity of what we're discussing here. What if that was you? What if this was scrutiny was applied to you? Just think for a second how this would look if this was applying to you, to your identities, to your political beliefs. There are people at this table right now whose home countries are doing unspeakable things. I'll give you a hint. It's not the one you're thinking. Why am I here defending the actions of a country thousands of miles away to defend the actions of a president? Like, this is ridiculous. Can we get back to work, please? This petition is a waste of time. The petition is a waste of people's energy, and it's a hate campaign directed at a single woman because that's the first Jew that they saw that they could attack for something that they didn't like. Yes, there are people who want to recall President Wexler for reasons other than anti-Semitism, but they are the tiny minority. And lastly, I want to point one thing out. If 1,000 signatures were signed and 20% of them were fraudulent, that points to something kind of fishy, and I don't like it. Thanks.
Thank you, Senator. I'm going to take that as the beginning of discussion on the petition, and we will go around in a circle. Every senator will speak if they so choose. So I'm just going to start from Senator Lebowski, and we can go down the line.
Are we using the 3-minute limit currently?
That's a great question.
No.
No.
Okay.
Nope. Hit it.
Okay. First of all, guys, we have an election in 5 weeks where we'll have a brand new president. So, guys, this is a waste of our time, straight up. Like, that's number one. This is a complete waste of our time. We need to be talking about the food. We were going to be talking about like the food truck where we're going to be bringing food to students in IV. But instead, what are we talking about? We're talking about this hateful, it's truly hateful. Everything about this petition is a lie. I straight up was there at the MCC that was talked about earlier, and that was not true. I was a witness. I was there, as were many of the people in this room. It's not true. What did happen that day was Tessa, with another Jewish student next to her, was having a conversation with two other students. Completely, like, yes, they were having disagreements, but it was civil. And then as the opposition grew, that is when it became a big problem. And you know what that opposition, you know what they wanted? In case everyone forgot, the MCC did not want Zionists there. Oh, wait, what is a Zionist? Okay, so we always talk about this. Okay, guys, straight up. I'm just really tired. I'm Jewish. Hi, my name is Michelle Lebowski. I'm a senator. I'm a Jew. I go to school here. Yes. Now, Judaism. Zionism did not start with Herzl. He just gave it a name. And Zion comes from Zion, which comes from the land of Judea and Samaria, Israel, that we call today. It's an ancient belief that started with Moses, with Judah Maccabee and his father Mattatyahu, and then it went on with, and you know, Cyrus the Great wanted Jews to go back to Israel. Like, guys, Zionism is an ideology and was given a name in the 1800s. This is an ancient belief. We have archaeology to prove it. So when you're calling us Zionists, you're literally calling us Jews. And to separate Zionism and Judaism is just creating a whole new belief system. So it's Judaism and Zionism is one thing. So when you're criticizing Tessa, when you call her a Zionist, you're calling her a Jew. And Jew is a people. Now, I'm rambling on. Why? Because I don't believe that this campus believes this. Actually, there are people on this campus that are not Jewish, that have not spent their entire lives educating themselves. I literally came out of the womb and my parents were reading the Torah to me. You know, like, I mean, this is something that I've spent almost every single day of my life doing, as many of these people, as Tessa has. And to have people on this campus that are not Jewish, who just learned about Judaism like a day ago on TikTok, like, this is our fundamental belief system, and it's an indigenous movement that is ancient. So that is number two. Number three, when people say Tessa doesn't represent us, okay, but like last year, Gurleen, our president, I didn't know much about her, but no, I mean, she wasn't Jewish. I mean, I'm not like, what do you want Tessa to become Muslim or Christian so that like she identifies with you? I mean, vote for the next president to represent you. Like, she's out in 5 weeks. She's graduating. Like, what? I'm talking a lot, but it's just, it's nonsense. I wish that we were not here to talk about it. And it's just honestly exhausting. And please, if you want to know about Judaism and Zionism and what we are, pick up a scroll, not a link. You have to go and find the scrolls of archaeology. And that is where you'll find what Judaism is. And when you bring up our color of our skin, I want to tell you, look up, what did the Romans do to the Jews when they took over Jerusalem? They made us slaves. And where did they send their slaves? They sent them back to Rome and throughout the other places that they conquered. So check my blood and you'll find my history, as is Tessa's and as the rest of the Jewish people. I'm going to pass it on because I'll be here all night.
Thank you, Senator. Okay. We're going to go down the line for any senator who does want to speak. You want to speak? Okay.
You can start from that side and work towards.
We'll go down.
Okay.
Make it, please.
So, to kind of to go fast. One point I heard earlier was that voting on this petition would confuse voters. I don't necessarily think it would. I think it would be a question that says, do you want to recall so-and-so? And the solutions would be yes or no, not some other person's name. And so I think UCSB undergraduates, you know, 5th or 6th best public university in, you know, in the US, would be able to understand, you know, simultaneous questions being posed. I also think a lot of people understand that we would term out week 7, right? And so that still is relatively like a month, right, of time that students would be able to have at least some new president or some semblance of a new representative that would be capable of representing students. Now, Tessa helped me author my first bill when I joined AS. And it was a bill that restored the right of former military members to receive student funds if they're going to be hired on as construction workers here at UCSB. And it was intended to, you know, cut down American imperialism. Anyway, the thing that I find most pressing, though, is that I don't believe that the 800 plus students who did sign this petition are anti-Semitic. And I think this comes from a place where I try to build empathy. And the idea that I use to justify that stance is that I think conflating the two, anti-Zionism, anti-Semitism, creates somehow this kind of dangerous juxtaposition that I think a lot of people don't necessarily realize. To me, it's like a dangerous form of gatekeeping. Because for me, as someone who exists as a homosexual in the LGBTQ community, my bisexuality sometimes isn't even realized as like a real form of homosexuality. And because of that, I'm not given the same like protections from them or same camaraderie or in general, the same type of brotherhood that I would expect from people that I would like to call in my community. And I think it's because of the fact that they have created this idea that, well, bisexuality isn't homosexuality. It isn't a form of that. You can't share that same thing. You're not my brother, you're not, etc. And I think of that as an extension into some aspects where you can be Jewish and contain different political views. I think from my perspective, various types of Christians can have all of these different forms of political views, but at the same time yield to our Maker in all forms of the word. And I think that's ultimately what matters, is the unity behind faith. And so for this recall, I don't understand why we can't vote to ratify and simultaneously vote yes to introduce it onto the ballot, coming from that standpoint of giving students the right to choose is of our utmost priority. These students have played by the rules when we all know the rules very well, but oftentimes a lot of students don't necessarily understand what's going on. Oh my gosh, we don't have access to the Zoom. Oh my gosh, they're all ableist, right? That's just not true. So I'm wondering if that is the avenue that we should take in just encouraging people to participate in the student government, because I can be damn sure that we will outnumber the anti-Semites, and come that recall election in week 4, I'm sure that you guys will win. So please, I think that's the way that we should be reconsidering things instead of trying to have faith in the bad stuff. I want to have faith in the good stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Can you raise your hand if you'd like to speak, all senators? 8 minutes. Okay, we'll go Christiani.
I want to thank everybody for being here. This is an important conversation to be had. Sorry for all the trouble to get this thing organized. Our job as senators, as I see it, is to weigh the costs and benefits of any decision. And not only that, but to situate any decision we're making within the context of the implications that that decision will have on our community. And that's why I've reached a decision, after hearing the arguments presented by both sides, that we ought to reject this recall effort whole cloth. Now, this decision is wholly within the purview of the responsibilities as the Senate. One of the main arguments I've heard against it is that this would be undemocratic, for example. But it's our Constitution that vested in the Senate the power to approve any recall effort, and that's for a reason. It underscores the importance of scrutiny and deliberation. And the inclusion of the Senate's approval in the recall process, as I see it, is a deliberate constitutional safeguard that ensures momentary passions or superficial majorities don't overturn an elected official without substantial cause. The Senate's role, therefore, is to provide a thoughtful and measured evaluation that goes beyond immediate public opinion, protecting against the volatility of transient popular sentiments and ensuring that decisions are made with an eye toward the long-term interests of our community. Now, the only other main allegation I've heard from supporters of this petition surround the incident of doxing, and I think that's been addressed very well by the president. I think it's easy to make mistakes in the heat of the moment. I believe President Vexler's comments reflect her remorse for any harm caused. But I do not believe this petition is in the interest of the student body. President Vexler, in my view, you've served our association honorably. I think it's very difficult to strike the balance of a diverse constituency spanning thousands of students from across the world, all the while repeatedly coming under fire for your own Jewish identity. That's not easy to do. You stood strong in the face of an unprecedented geopolitical crises from around the world, many of these crises that have hit home. And I think that's what leadership looks like. In short, I want to wrap this thing up. I think the Senate has the sole power to approve this recall. We ought not to. I don't believe there's any basis for the recall. In fact, maybe there is anti-Semitism. And President Vexler, I think you've done a damn good job leading this association through an unprecedentedly challenging time.
Thank you, Colton. Now, we are at 10:45. We will have to relocate very soon. Does the Senate want to make a plan for when and where we would want to go? Senator Zah.
I feel like Natty will be the best option on ASME.
Thoughts? Pardal? Pardal? Ooh. No? Natty it is. ASME.
Can I ask the minute taker? Would you be willing to stay with minute takers, it appears? Would you be willing to, sorry, I didn't see you come in, stay with us for some amount of time, maybe until midnight? Is that possible? Okay, that's totally fine. Thank you. Is it possible for you to take minutes off of a recording of the meeting? Okay. In that case, I do think that the reasonable thing to do would be to relocate to AS Main, which is the only space that we have currently at our disposal. I agree with Pardal Center in theory, but it's not at our disposal.
Before we relocate, and I'm sorry I'm going to take up more of the time, I wanted to give a recommendation on this before people leave. I mean, you already heard my name, which is kind of weird. And I want to take a slightly different angle from what everyone's saying here. Basically, Tess and I disagree on a lot of things constantly, I'm sure. We have very different styles of everything we do. But past that, I don't think it's fair at all to remove someone because you disagree with their political opinion. I don't think it's acceptable at all. And I do thank every student that signed for making their voice heard, and for the two petitioners who wanted to bring forth all of these voices that felt unheard. I don't think this is the correct course of action. If you have ever met Tessa, you'll know she's a strong personality, but that doesn't mean she's unreasonable. Just talk to her if you disagree with her. It's really not that hard. She's got an email. And I can say confidently, as the person who would be president if Tessa was removed, don't fucking do it. It's funny now. It would not be funny if I was president, I assure you. Okay, so with that being said, I would like to recommend that the no recall election go forth. And we should probably move right now. Senator Zah?
We cannot absolutely recreate, or we cannot move and recreate the Zoom and any of the accessibility concerns that we have. And so I think we just wouldn't be able to vote. And I really do not think we can continue the meeting.
Senator Zah?
If I may, we could still use to make the video and audio streaming, which is what we do in usual Senate meeting, and it's great.
I think that a large portion of the public discussion has occurred. I think that it's likely that the vote would be a secret ballot anyway. I think that we can use closed session as a mechanism both to manage attendance from a large group of people, to mitigate accessibility concerns. I think if we entered a closed session in AS Main, there would not be an accessibility concern so long as the senators who are on Zoom would still be able to access the meeting. And I'd like the executive director's comment if possible, if the consent of the chair.
Please.
In consideration of the elections board, additional matters that you have to vote on, those would require public participation. And you'll recall earlier on, his presentation included a whole series of additional ballot measures. And this week is when your legal code identifies the need to actually finalize the ballot. So the Senate would have a compound issue. The additional piece is, if you would like, I think it might be possible to move a lot of this work, the additional work, into an email vote and take this one matter here, if that's what the senator was suggesting. I do, yeah. It doesn't necessarily have to be AS Main. It could be anywhere in the building, but yes.
Would it be possible to do that without a closed session, or do you agree with that?
The senator will recall you cannot take a binding vote in closed session. We don't, yeah. I'm sorry, would you like me to repeat that? Okay, so the issue to the chair and to the senator, in closed session, you cannot take a vote and have it count. That's the issue. Make sense?
Lebowski?
I think that sorry, this wasn't on. The best solution, I believe, is to go into the MCC. We need to continue. We need to vote on multiple things tonight. And the MCC auditorium is built up like this. It's our AS building. It's our best solution, and we need to continue.
Please, yeah.
The multicultural center is not available for us. It's not ours. That belongs to another department. It isn't ours to use. Make sense? Yeah.
Gotcha.
A motion to move into a 20-minute recess for the purpose of relocate to AS Main.
There's been a motion at a 20-minute recess for the purpose of relocating to AS Main. Is there a second? I hear a second. We're now discussion.
Objection.
Question? I hear objection. Do you rescind your whole question? Rescinded. Senator Littlepage, was it? Yeah, Senator Littlepage, please. Did he disconnect? Oh, okay. Oh, he's back. Did you see? Okay. Senator Littlepage, you have the floor.
Sorry. So what's the plan to ensure accessibility and access from Zoom if we're relocating?
Senator Zah?
Yes, we'll be using the audio and video device as we would for our normal Senate meeting. So I don't expect that to be a problem.
Okay. Is there like a guarantee from staff we can do that too? Are we gonna have access to the space?
Carlson?
Unfortunately, there is no guarantee from staff that can happen. And so my concern is I think we should just call a special meeting tomorrow. I yield.
Sean Huff?
I think that there's a language that we can use to try to set it up, and that failing, we would be able to move to a special meeting, but I do think that we should give it a try. So if Senator Jha would be willing to rescind the motion, I'd be happy to make a motion that can accommodate the possibility that we're unable to set up a meeting environment that's conducive.
I am okay with that, Senator Littlepage. The accessibility concerns could be addressed by Senator Shalanov's motion language, and pending the availability and possibility of that accessibility in AS Main, we will try to call a different meeting. Is that all right with you? I yield.
I mean, yeah, that's fine. Do I rescind my objection?
I rescind my previous motion.
Now, to be totally clear, what is the Senate's plan? Are you going to call Senator Soloff?
I motion to enter an indefinite recess until a suitable meeting location is identified at the discretion of the chair.
There's been a motion to enter an indefinite recess until a suitable location is identified at the discretion of the chair. Is there a second? Seconded by A. Martinez. We're now discussion. I call the question. Objection to call the question. Consent. Objection to consent. Seeing none, motion passes.
1 second, before everybody gets up, 1 second, while I have still everyone's attention. If you could please clean up the area that you're in prior to leaving the building, that would be very much appreciated. We will be moving to AS Main. If you could please let us populate the space before entering there, I would really appreciate it. Please do not actually enter AS Main until we're set up in tech there. It'll get very, very crowded. Thank you.
I'll start with Big Jen and then we'll go down this way.
Right, it's everyone on Zoom can hear me okay? Hi, Holly, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you okay.
Right, that's good. So, since this picture is about President Wexler's fitness to lead, I want to share with you about my interactions with her and let you decide for yourself. My first real interaction with Tessa started with a call for help from my international students. That students faced a very common problem that most of us must face, which is having her housing contract renewal denied when her family is facing financial hardship. I was very new to the Senate back then, and I don't know how to help her. So I reached out to, at the time, Senator Wexler, when she's the chair of the Basic Needs Committee. And she not only sent a letter supporting the housing appeal of that student, she also referred some very helpful resources and even actively followed up on that. Fast forward to the time of President Wexler, when she got her own office and budget. She was still the same person that always be there for international students. A lot of international students stayed on campus during the Thanksgiving because the home is 6,000 miles away. But dining halls are all closed, and a lot of restaurants in LA are closed as well. That raises the question of what to eat. The solution was the TGC meal voucher program, where we worked out a deal with Casual and Suspa by placing a large enough order for them to stay open during Thanksgiving. And we then subsequently gave those food away to anyone who stayed on campus. It was a huge success. President Wexler not only helped us publicize the event, but even made significant financial contributions to the initiative. My AS philosophy is very simple. If you do the right thing for international students, you will have my unconditional support, which is why I'm very proud to say today that Tessa Wexler is a friend of international students, and I will be voting against the recall petition. However, at the end, I want to respond directly to the arguments made by the Attorney General. If I understand her petition correctly, no elected AS leaders can be recalled for their political views. I fundamentally disagree with that. We're in politics. We're elected, and that as such, we should be challenged for our political view. I will not vote against the recall petition because she is unchangeable, but because she is a good president. She has done the stuff for international students, and my vote will be no.
Thank you, Senator. Next, Alvin?
A question to the chair. Should
Yeah.
I interrupt, but would you rather, may I?
Yeah, please.
Did someone, invite the audience that was in Portland to join us?
Yes.
Yes.
And are they choosing not to join us?
To the chair.
Yeah.
A lot of students left. Is my understanding, but everyone was invited. We went over and told everyone who was like hanging out around.
Okay, because that constitutes the public nature of your meeting. In a petition, of course, but I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew where we were relocated before we left. Yeah?
Yes, sir.
I can also send an email right now if that would help. Okay. Okay. Oh, well, they said they were gonna zoom in from Hello.
Because they can zoom, that's right, okay, just putting it on the record, good. Okay, to the chair, I would also recommend identifying where you are.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's a good point. We're still in action items of the agenda. We're in discussion of the recall petition. And we're in the first round of Russell's discussion. Senator Wayne?
Hi, everyone. My name is Alvin, and I'm the chair of the Basic Needs Committee. Is it able to hear me or the speaker? It's pointing at you. Or should I speak louder? You're good. Just speak closer. I can just go closer. I'll just speak at the speaker. Well, hi everyone in the audience and also my fellow senators. My name is Alvin and I'm the chair of the Basic Needs Committee. As many of you already know, Tessa or President Vexler was the previous chair of the Basic Needs Committee, and from my experience with her, I've learned a lot from her, and both as a leader and as a friend, there's so many things within basic needs that I wouldn't have been able to do without her help. That being said, this petition is not about me. It's not about my personal experiences with Tessa, but rather the experiences of all other students and every student on this petition's experience with President Vexler. I perfectly understand that students might not feel safe when President Vexler as their president, and that they might not feel represented, because the place where I draw the line is when students are dogs. I understand that mistakes were made, that President Vexler has on record recognized that mistakes were made, but nothing can change the fact that students were dogs and harm has been done, and the appropriate steps to restore this harm have not been taken. And the reason why I'm here right now is to empower the student body. I was elected by my fellow engineers as the College of Engineering Senator to represent College of Engineering students straight up. And you best believe that there are engineering students on that petition. It's not my opinion whether to recall Tessa or not, but rather I'm putting it in the hands of the student body of whether it's their right, whether they want to recall Tessa or not. It's not my decision. I've been elected here to represent the student body, to empower the student body, and serve the student body. And that is what I will continue doing, which is why I will be voting to support the recall petition. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Wayne. Down the line.
I didn't believe the Zoom was working for people.
It's not. Are people in Zoom?
Hello, Holly, can you hear us?
Hi, yeah, Senator Lebowski's voice was a little quiet though, so if you were speaking next, if you could come closer. Senator Wang, you did great. That distance was good.
Just think the Zoom isn't quite working right for some. How's it looking?
Yeah, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we can, it's fine.
Okay.
Holly, how many people are in Zoom right now?
Oh, got you. There are 25 attendees and 8 panelists, but on the panel is also Eric Carlson, Maricel is on the panel, the laptop that has the Zoom, Soham, you're on there, and then the other minute taker account is on there. So really like 4 participants, really.
Do you think that you could reply all to the Senate agenda thread with a fresh link to join the Zoom?
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
Also,
did we cover that there were like 26 attendees as well?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, I just wanted to double
Wanted to
check if people
emphasize.
were able to join at all. I think we can move on. Senator Adler?
Yeah.
Oh.
First of all, we're starting first round. Hands up.
I think he's spoken yet.
Yeah. Sorry.
I don't think he has yet. Senator Shaw? Okay.
So, y'all know me, I'm Jeff. I've been very outspoken about these issues, not even during Tessa's presidency, but even last year. I feel like I've developed a track record being a lone voice, sharing a contentious opinion, especially in regards to the Israel-Palestine conflict's effects on higher education. I don't know, Tessa, she does a lot of good for this school, and she actually got me involved in Senate. She urged me to run nearly 2.5 years ago. She probably regrets that now, but in the same way she's following her moral compass through her activism, I'm following mine with my perspectives. Fundamentally, what I've tried to raise the attention of the Senate for the past 6-8 weeks has relatively gone unanswered in a lot of ways. And I remember it started with me bringing up concerns to the Senate about Tom Hirschfeld's post segregating some members of the Jewish community on campus. And I didn't get a lot of shared, I don't know, feeling that that was an issue of concern, at least on the Senate floor. And no one really approached me about it after, but I thought it was indicative of a greater issue. And fundamentally, what I'm left with now is a basic question of integrity and like what we want out of our student leaders representing us. If you were in attendance at the meeting 6 weeks ago, 2 days after the MCC demonstration, I had a really contentious question I wanted to ask Tessa, because in my mind, some components of the president's job, being a leader on campus, they permeate beyond the 9-to-5 duties of the presidency, right? Upholding safe campus discourse, in my mind, is an essential tenet that always needs to happen every day, day in, day out, to be a leader. And so I had a good faith concern that I brought up where I wanted to ask her about her affiliation with the Israel on Campus Coalition, which, I mean, I don't need to go into it all, you heard the meeting, but I just see so much selective outrage, so much feeling unsafe, unsafety in my own community, but we don't grant those same feelings of unsafety to other members of our campus community. And so when I brought up the concern about how her connection was leading a campaign to harass and intimidate and dox Palestinian students on campus, at the meeting, I was met with scorn, I was met with laughter, gaslighting. Some senators on the body with me alluded that my comments, my line of questioning was anti-Semitic, you know? And as a Jewish person myself, it sucks to feel powerless to, I don't know, powerless to shape the narrative that we're seeing today. I mean, this is big stuff going on, like whether we like to think so or not. I know it's much easier to avoid the conversation, but the fact is, like, even last year, I was the lone vote against the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism because I knew that it could be weaponized to not just stop anti-Semitism, but preclude pro-Palestinian activism on campus. And if you look into what's happened, well, for one, that definition was put in place under the Trump administration. He told the Department of Education to utilize that definition. And now, when I'm seeing a federal lawsuit come at UCSB, I just feel sad that I couldn't, like, I feel like I saw it from so far away, you know, I'm like not able to do anything about it. So I was kind of rambling, but fundamentally, you can disregard any ideological position you have. I can think what I want about Tessa's leadership. That's my opinion, and that's not what's influencing this vote and this speech. Because fundamentally, what we're about to vote on doesn't have to do with politics inherently, right? We as the Senate, we're nothing more than an instrument, okay? We are a mechanism to let the student voice be heard, right? That's why we gather every Wednesday. That's why we do what we do. We represent students. That's our job, okay? And despite what you may think, voting yes to approve this recall, it's not taking a side. It's not saying that I disapprove of Tessa's leadership. It's not saying that I disapprove of her Zionism. It has nothing to do with that. It's fundamentally a choice of, do we, the 15 people in this room, feel like we know better than the 30,000 students that we're elected to represent? I would really ask you to think on that and like ask why you're here, because it's a super easy thing to do to speak for everybody, right? It's a lot harder to give it up to people to think for themselves. And that's what democracy is, right? And if we can say we're a democracy and we can be elected, that's our fundamental job. Leaving ideology out, you know? So I would really encourage people, despite the controversy, despite what feelings they may have, and you know I have many, that's not what is driving this decision. Because at the end of the day, returning agency to students, that's why we're here. And if that's why we're here, you need to approve to recall and give students their own ability to make their own choices, right? So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Senator. Who's next?
Can I go?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Y'all, I am so tired. And I know you are all too. But how many votes are required to reach this threshold? It is 300, right? Or 800, one of the two. Regardless, the number of signatures has exceeded that amount, like significantly. So it's not a question of what we think of the leadership. It's a question of, are we going to allow our student body to pose a question that it's obviously this has been led by students. And also I think it's problematic to label these students as inherently anti-Semitic, especially considering we've heard literally from multiple Jewish students themselves who support this recall. But that being said, I do not want another recall election. I really this is the last thing I want, but the students have asked for it. And it's our job to be a voice of the students and not speak over or overrule what students say. So I think maybe this could be tacked on to the regular election. I don't really think it's feasible to have a special election. But I do think this is something that it's necessary to happen, regardless of how I feel about it personally.
Senator Page, yes, to my understanding, this can be attached to regular election. Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
But probably better if you just come there.
Hi, everyone. I'm Natalie Broadway, and I'm one of the off-campus senators. And I would like to echo a couple of points made by some of the senators before me. While we all have personal experiences with President Vexler, our personal experiences do not always represent the opinions and voices of the student body that we are supposed to represent. First, I want to say that we should try our best to set aside personal feelings and beliefs when making our decisions. I think that as elected senators, we need to remember that we are not only representing ourselves as students, but the constituents that elected us last spring. How we vote on this shouldn't be based upon our feelings, but the feelings of those who we're representing. And I hope that everyone here took the time to actually talk and have conversations with the groups that you're supposed to be representing. I hope that the off-campus senators might talk to people in Isla Vista who live off-campus about how they feel about the petition, whether they're for it or against it. I hope people who are the transfer senator, I hope you talk to transfer students about what they feel about the petition. Because again, it's not just about our personal experiences as elected officials. Obviously, we're gonna have different experiences as elected senators with the president than our regular student body. And I think it's important that we remember that when we're making these decisions. It's not just about us. Thousands of students elected us, and we need to be talking to those students because they're the ones who made the choice. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Floor is open. Is there any other senators who'd like to make a statement? Oh, yeah. Are there any other senators who'd like to make a statement? If not, we'll move into a, was it 20-minute discussion?
Is it not a recess at your, was it recess after? After, okay, 20 minutes.
Okay, I guess we'll move into 20 discussion. Make a motion? Or do we?
No, you're in it.
You already have. Okay, so is this, what, speak for the discussion? Is that gonna? Gotcha. Okay, floor is open. Senator Shawna?
I apologize to the audience. I'm going to turn my back on you. I'd like to address the Senate as the group that's going to be voting on this legislation, but I don't intend the symbolism of literally turning my back on you. I'll try to stand sideways. So I think there's been some really great arguments made, and I want to in particular point out Senator Broadway's point here. And I want to connect it to Senator Wang's. Like, I absolutely agree that this is a decision that stretches far beyond our personal views. And I think that's exactly why we need to focus on the policy making here. The Constitution has a structure for recall elections. The structure for recall elections is that a petition is first presented. If the Senate accepts that petition, if it recognizes it as the requisite number of signatures and so on, then the Senate makes the decision as to whether or not to initiate a recall election. I personally view the question of the petition itself as a narrow legal factual question. Those questions are, does the petition meet the specifications of a recall petition? Did a sufficient number of students truly sign that petition? And the only other possible question I would have for that matter is whether those students were misled prior to signing the petition. I think that could be a reason to vote no on that point. But I mostly want to move on from it because I think that in large part people have made up their minds as to whether or not the petition is valid, and I can totally hear arguments on both sides. I want to really step to the question of the policy of the recall election. First of all, I think that Senator Cristiani made an amazing point. The reason that the constitutional structure requires the Senate to affirm this, not just affirm it, but affirm it with 2 votes, and the second of those votes having an overwhelming supermajority, is to prevent unwise recall elections. If the framers of the AS Constitution intended for a petition itself to be the justification for a recall election, then there would be no step of Senate ratification with a 2/3 vote to initiate the process. In fact, there probably wouldn't be a Senate involvement at all. Simply be, the factual question of whether or not the votes were reached, and then the election begins. It's not set up that way because it's actually quite easy to get people to sign a lot of different things. If you've ever noticed while you're biking through the bike path, you see by the arbor, there's people standing there with petitions asking you to sign to help save the kids. When you read the fine print, you find out that these are for-profit, horrifying institutions that are trying to get California Assembly bills passed that benefit them. They have nothing to do with children's health, right? But that's in the fine print. I think that the vast majority of people who signed the petition to recall Tessa Vexler would likely find it difficult to justify that position. And the reason,
sorry, is this another discussion point, or like what is the?
No, we're in discussion, so you can.
Discussion, discuss it.
like genuinely.
No, I thought like recess or something later. Yeah.
No.
Okay, I'll try to wrap it up.
No, I don't know.
I don't think people are uninformed, but I do think that the stream of information that's been presented to those that are in favor of this recall petition is comically disingenuous. I encourage you to read the 2 posts on the Recall Tessa Vexler Instagram account. There's only 2. And I in particular like to focus your attention on that the second post's caption. If you read it, you'll find just factually incorrect statements. This plays into the broader point here. If President Vexler is to be recalled, does not every single possible president hold views that several hundred students on campus would find questionable, objectionable, or even threatening? Of course, people hold views that are questionable, objectionable, threatening, controversial. That's fine. The question is whether President Vexler has intentionally caused harm or has violated any part of her legal obligation. And I think that's categorically not true. The only instance in which I've heard that President Vexler has been accused of a specific act of misconduct
is in calling out the doxing of people improperly and 10 minutes later reverting to a different way of calling out that doxing. I think if that is the standard to which we are holding our elected officials, then every single one of us should be recalled, because I assure you that we have all done much worse. Thank you.
Yeah, to echo off that point, I just think the people disapproving the recall petition have just a really bad estimate of the student body that they're representing. Like, I don't know, like Tessa herself, when she was talking about people are being misled, people are being manipulated, taken advantage of, people don't know what they're voting on, people don't know what they're signing, like, let's have a little bit of faith in the students that elected us. What does that mean? They elected us, and they don't know what they're doing when they're voting on stuff, right? So like, that's a little bit strange, but you go to the point of it's on note. I've been trying to have this conversation more broadly. Like, what do we expect of our, like what constitutes leadership? And I think it's a broader discussion about our values as an institution. For me, when I brought up Tessa's affiliation with this person, Jacob Bain, I said, hey, this guy, straight from his mouth on camera, said he is, quote, a national political campaign to crush pro-Palestinian student activists. This isn't my word. This is his words. Go look it up. A lot of you on YouTube, The Nation, Israel's war on student activists. You can go read this yourself. This isn't just me saying this, okay? But I brought this up at the meeting, and I was like, how can you rationalize the beliefs of you hold safety so important? Safety is driving everything that you do, and yet you're unwilling to condemn this super close professional relationship you have. And she said it herself at this meeting. Oh, I need to follow Israel more because I need to see what they're posting. Oh, I need to keep up with the Israel on Campus Coalition because they're support my career. Like when does it end? When does it stop being like just about, I don't know, getting information? Because as far as I can tell, I pulled her aside right before this meeting happened, and I was like, hey, like we should talk like after our other conversation. You know, I didn't get a chance to like give you a chance to say your piece, you know. And I was like, after I told you about this campaign led by your close friend that is harassing, intimidating, and doxing students, what did you learn more about it? Did you research it more? She told me, oh, it's not true. It's not true. It's a video of the guy saying, but what do you mean? What do you mean it's not true? Of course, she didn't say that publicly. She just told me that in passing. But like, I feel like I've made a really good faith effort on the Senate, going to talk to different groups. I go to talk to SJP. I go to talk to the MS Coalition. I had a great meeting with the SSI president. They're probably not here for, but I feel like I know what it means to go be an ally or someone who's interested in good faith discussion. Throughout my interaction with Tessa, she is not showing herself as good faith. And that's my opinion. And again, that's not considered this vote, believe it or not. I know it's a crazy thing. I think students have a voice for themselves. This is just me, my interactions, but what can I do? What can we do? At some point, we need to call out this disingenuous rhetoric on campus, and we need to say, enough is enough. And if we don't have the ability to come to a conclusion ourselves, we need to put that question to the students for them to decide for themselves. Because, like I said before, us passing this petition is not taking a side. It's taking a side for participation. It's taking a side for letting student voices be heard. But if you reject the petition, you are taking a side. And students don't have the sense to speak for themselves. So that's what it is. Thank you, Senator. The floor is open. Let me consider this movie. If not,
I have my hands up.
Oh, yes, please, Senator Littlepage.
I just want to say, I think that this conversation is not really getting to the point of what it needs to get to. I think this does not involve, yes, it involves Tessa, but I do not think this is really a question about Tessa. This is a question about, do we listen to the 800 or 900 students who signed on to this petition, which is overwhelmingly above the threshold required for this, or do we not? And that's our question as student representatives. We're here to represent the students' wishes. It's not our job to, cast doubts on the intentions of these students, or, I mean, it's good to criticize, but like if it's, the students have chosen this, and I think we need to follow through with their wishes. And also, I think we really need to start wrapping this up. Today is literally Eid, which is one of the most important days for our Muslim students. And I think the sort of neglect that we show towards Muslim students is part of the reason that this petition is getting introduced anyways. Like, it's just, there's a lot of discontent. And sorry, y'all, I'm really tired. I think that we just need to vote to put this on the ballot, please.
Okay, since all listeners are first.
Yeah, to answer to the question of Senator Little Page, according to the rules we adopted, we cannot go to a vote at this moment. It's unfortunate, but that's the rules we adopted. I do have one question for Senator Adler. You mentioned the, relationship between President Wexler and some off-campus entities. Do you think that should be considered when we look into the recall petition? In other words, should she be recalled for having a personal relationship in her private life? That's a question.
That's a good question. I think no, what I was getting at in my relationship with Tessa was a broader pattern of disingenuous behavior. But I want to bring up a tangential point. A huge mantra about this discussion and about the president's activism and members of the cabinet's activism has been a separation between the duties outlined as a student representative and an activist in your own social life, right? That's like the delineation that we agree to, like that's what has been preached about, like, oh, like I'm allowed to pursue the activist causes that I want to do outside of my time with the presidency or whatever it is, right? And so I want to believe that and I want to take people at face value, but tell me why. You can go on her Instagram and find whatever interview she's giving with whatever Zionist entity. Tell me why in half of the interviews she goes through, she's saying, hi, I'm Tessa Wexler, president of the student body of the CSB, right? You can go look at that for yourself. It's like, are they separate or are they not? Because when you say that, in my mind, it seems like you're using the legitimacy of this institution to further your outside activism endeavors, right? But at the same time, you want immunity and you don't want any criticism of your outside activism from that body, right? So which is it? Are they separate or are they together? And I think that the president can sometimes muddle those lines the way that is beneficial to her and separate them when it's not beneficial to her, you know? But keep in mind, my personal opinions on Tessa aren't the focal point of what's being discussed. As Senator Little Page said, this petition got 827 signatures. Tessa got like 3,000 votes. Like that's a quarter of the voting population voting to recall. Like that's a lot, right? Like no matter which way you slice it, a lot of the student body is discontent. And I think that they should be the first concern that we have, right? Letting them dictate their own affairs. Who are we to say we know better than other people when it's a nationwide issue right now that, like, I don't know, this issue should be left up to the student body. Senator Lebowski first.
Senator O'Hara.
I just want to kind of redirect the narrative occurring right now that our job in this situation is to take the petition that the student body has given us and allow them the ability, based on full faith, to make that decision. Like taking things to their logical conclusion, an exercise which you practiced earlier during this meeting. If this was the 1920s and a president at our university, our student body was Black, and students brought us a recall petition based on the color of their skin, would our job in that situation just be to allow that petition to continue? I'm just trying to address the point that Senator Lynch brought, that this isn't about Tessa, because it most certainly is. She is the student body president. People are trying to recall her based on her actions. And in my mind, it is our job to evaluate somewhat the job that she's done in that role.
On top of information,
Yeah.
Chef announced the remaining time of the staff.
Oh, we're at 4 minutes and 46 seconds left. Yeah. Senator White?
I just want to reiterate a point I made earlier, but
Compare.
okay. I just want to reiterate a point I made earlier, which is the whole reason and the line that I draw is at the doxing of students. Students were harmed, students were hurt. The proper steps to restore that harm weren't done. It's as simple as that. Mistakes might have been made, but students were still harmed. And as the president of the student body, those are your constituents, people that you're there to represent. And those students that you represent were harmed by you. And that's not something I can get behind. Are you?
You, Senator. I said I'm listening to Paulson next, and then Senator Shaw.
I yield to Sean.
Senator Shaw?
Senator Wayne, I recall a time when an officer of our association caused immense harm, emotionally and otherwise, to a large group of students in front of you. And then, weeks later, you vehemently supported fully funding their honorarium, providing no punishment whatsoever to that act. You can hold that position, but you can't have your cake and eat it too. Either all harm, any harm, in any context, is the bar, or it's not. Quite frankly, the students who were doxxed were students who disgustingly prohibited Jewish people from entering that room right there. Yes, their doxing was illegal, immoral, and awful. President Vexler, myself, and many others contacted the Israel War Room account to immediately take it down. And President Vexler was the only person who got through to them to actually take it down. So in fact, whatever steps that could be taken to restore harm have been taken. Days later, President Vexler and myself's phone numbers, private messages were on the internet. I see no outrage from you or anyone else. Dozens and dozens of students came to talk about the MCC and the effect of the anti-Semitic attack that had occurred there. And I saw no action from you or you or you or anyone else. Dozens. If you care about student voices, is it only the students whom you agree with? The point of the matter is, yes, it is only the students you agree with. That's what being an elected representative is about. It's about holding strong opinions, strong convictions, and hearing from the people you disagree with, and still holding convictions. President Vexler ran on convictions. President Vexler was elected on her convictions. President Vexler should serve her term with her convictions. And I believe that President Vexler's conduct has been exemplary compared to any president in recent AS memory. I think that under the justification that any harm done is a reason to recall the president, any officer could be recalled immediately and should. I think that it's clear that neither the internal vice president nor anyone else in that chain of command thinks that the recall would lead to better administration of our associated students, and rather it would lead to a disintegration of the entire ASOP process, a complete disbandment of the cabinet, and complete AS dysfunction for 4 weeks after a confusing, muddled election that drives down voter turnout for no purpose other than to allow students to express their discontent with a president whose political beliefs they don't like. 15,000 people signed the petition in favor of Tessa Vexler.
Okay. Carlson, Bill Webster.
We're doing one round of answers.
Yes, there will be.
So-
we extend the true motion to extend that?
That'd be great. Or we could just do this over recess too. Because you have 50 seconds.
There were some like really good points that were brought up. Part of the things that are curious to me, at least on one side, is to the point of like external activism. Perhaps there's like some time, place that will be able to like more properly address that. I'm reminded of things like Citizens United, where like you can have like external financial, corporations whose financial contributions to like politicians' campaign are regarded as like federally protected speech, right? I'm wondering if there is a reckoning in our future for all of us when it comes to external outside groups that have an influence, an undue influence on the political happenings of American campuses. And I think it's a logical approach that we have to kind of come to terms with. That is happening across the board. It happens with Democrats, it happens with Republicans, it happens with literally every political group that you could possibly imagine, because youth are the future. We know that to be just a God-given truth. And so to that end, I don't really have an answer, but I don't necessarily think that the external groups are what we're kind of aiming at when these petitioners bring forth this petition to potentially remove or recall Tessa Vexler from her position. I think the chief concerns as brought, according to the Instagram post that Senator Shalhoub mentioned, and I quote, is that Tessa's Vexler behavior was a systematic approach to governance that prioritizes personal agenda over the well-being and voice of the student population. And thinking back on like instances that I could recall, is that we had Tessa Vexler when immediately after October 7th, the first time that we had a pro-Palestinian protest occur on campus, and the first time there was a pro-Israeli protest that happened in downtown Santa Barbara, if you guys all remember, Tessa Vexler introduced herself at that speech as the UCSB student body president. And there are students, right, who don't necessarily believe that aligns with them. And that could be an instance for the first place where it's not born from any disjuncture of, oh, that student isn't like me. Oh, it's because I'm taking a discriminative stance. It's because of a political difference. And that, no, these are it's a geopolitical instance of a very prime example of why they might want to skew away politically from that administration. And so that could be a birthplace for it. And I believe that to be true as noted in that Instagram post. I think so there's other things, but I'll bring that up when we get back. So I yield.
Thank you, Senator Lawson. So yeah, now according to the rules, we are in recess for my discretion. If you guys would like, I'm happy to just, yes, Senator recess now.
With the chair's allowance, so long as nobody makes a point of order on the conclusion of the discussion, maybe we could continue it to let the speakers that you pointed out. It's a bit questionable. We could also amend the rules. I'm happy to do that with a couple of other things. Maybe that's the safest fit. But well, I guess the question is whether we want to continue the discussion or just do one talking point per person and then vote.
You guys want? Oh, then take it again.
I just want to say, I think it was now,
Yeah. Without a minute taker, how should we proceed, Chair?
We're good.
We're good.
We're
Okay.
recording minutes we take.
Okay, I'm totally fine with taking minutes and recording. Keep going.
It's on film.
She thought it was fine.
Okay.
We asked her.
Estimate of how long it is like after midnight. The night still have a class today, so I will have to be very simple.
It's all your decisions. You would decide how long it's.
You guys are writing speeches, can you like save them? You can send them and take it later.
That being the case, there's a.
It's will be better if we just go into recess and get the final rounds. So it's late.
I withdraw what I said earlier.
Gotcha.
I'd ask that you make the recess trivially short so we can just get this over with, like 10 seconds, for instance, so that we can.
We'll come down. It's 5 minutes. Okay, I can do 5 minutes bathroom breaks together. You guys got 5 minutes. 12:06.
Yeah, like done.
3. We can do 3. Okay. 12:04.
Say it. Can you say it like loudly?
Yeah. 12:04. Please be back on the recess. Will you do like? We're back in session. Holly, can you confirm that you can hear us? Is all working again?
Hi, yes, I can hear you.
Excellent. Okay. We're now in the final round, oh, yes, please, Marcel.
To the chair, could you consider giving the floor to the elections board chair to remind the senators about items that have to be voted on the same week to make the bring, ballot?
Yes, absolutely. Caesar, could you speak now and then we can go into.
Yeah, so I included this in my report at the beginning of the meeting, but separate from the issue that you all are currently in the midst of debating, there are 3 sets of minutes that require approval by the Senate. Unlike our week 10 action where we explicitly stated that, the action would take effect upon approval by the election board without ratification by the Senate, this one does. We made no allowance for that because the Senate is regularly meeting. That was a special case where, because it was in week 10, we needed that done ASAP. So however you guys want to handle it, it does need to be reported in your minutes as a Senate that you have ratified 3 elections board minutes that I presented. So those are from April 4th, April 9th, and April 10th. It's been distributed to Senate agendas at as.ucsb.edu. Please ask your first and second pro temps if you don't have a copy, if you have any questions. I'm going to be sitting here as long as you guys are going to be sitting here, frankly, because I would like to know the outcome of whatever this debate is. And I'll be here to address any questions that you guys have as they come up. I guess, does anybody have any questions for me now?
Are these minutes in the minutes drive?
They are, yes. They're in the to be approved folder.
Okay.
So I added them there, and then Senator Shonkoff requested they also sent it in the form of an email, which I provided them. So that's, can you give me a nod if that's correct? Have you received them via email?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, Senator Shonkoff.
We got the email and I expect that we'll be able to approve this tonight.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be waiting to go.
Perfect. They're already on the agenda. Nothing special to be done. Okay, we're back discussing the petition. We're in the final round of process for discussion. I'm gonna go around the room this way. That works for everyone. Unless there's any other preferences. Other way? Yeah, okay. I'm hearing conflicting things here. Everybody start. Does anyone want to start? Senator Lebowski.
I'm just gonna come up and say it. So basically, I think that we need to really think about who wrote this petition. And they started this petition, as they said earlier, in fall quarter. Why? Because of Tessa's Zionist beliefs. Now, Zionism, as I clarified before, it is part of the Jewish identity and the Jewish religion. And this is based on her Judaism. Now, part 2 is the issue of the doxing. Now, I want to look at the people who put their name on this petition and the person who, as Senator Shalanov reminded me, who's the same person that put Jewish students' phone numbers on the internet for everyone to see. And those same people that want Tessa to be recalled support the same guy who actually truly doxed on purpose Jewish students because of their Jewish identity. And since then, they have received hateful text messages, phone calls, and frankly, it is purely anti-Semitic. And that is why this petition is anti-Semitic. And I understand that there are issues and implications in which people think and believe that it is part of her responsibility and scrutiny. And yes, that is it. But we have to understand who wrote this and what their intent is. And it is anti-Semitic, and we have to understand and who can identify types of hate for their religion or ethnicity or race are the people of that. You know, I'm not a person of color, so I cannot identify specific racial things. This is why I accept and I lean on people to tell me when I make mistakes. Now, when other Jews tell people that they're being anti-Semitic, it's time to listen. We're all at school. It's our time to listen. We need to hold our tongue and listen. I yield.
Anyone like to go next?
I'll go.
Senator's up.
I'll be very quick. President Wexler have done good things for international students, and as their representative, I will stand with her to the every step of the way. I yield.
Thank you, Senator. Floor is open.
Senator Allen? Yeah, I think there have been a lot of good points raised. I don't see having further discussion anymore. Fundamentally, I think you should try to just all the facts set out before you, your own experiences, decide for yourself if you think this student should have a place to raise his concerns, or if you know better and don't want them to have that place. And I think, I don't know, I don't want to conclude discussion at all, but maybe if the Senate is amenable, what if we think about like a blind vote, so we know that no one is pressured into voting in a good way, and make sure that everyone's conscience is totally clear to vote how they want to. Yeah.
Thank you, Senator. Floor is open. Senator Shawna?
I think that Senator Adler is right that most of what's been said, what could be said, has been said. If I could have your attention for just like a few seconds. I think it's right to vote your conscience. It's also right to vote on policy. I think you need to seriously consider, absent of every other question, whether or not hosting this recall election and in one scenario, actually recalling the president would be beneficial to the student body or to the association. I think the answer is clearly no. The only effect that this will happen on this, have on this association, if the recall were to go through, which I find very unlikely, is a vacancy in the presidency for a month prior to the beginning of the next term. There won't be a functional cabinet, and most properties and most functions of AS will grind to a halt. And if you think that this is worth it, fine. But I want you to seriously consider the policy applications here and remind you of the serious moral questions of approving a petition of this sort. It is not your duty to universally just accept any petition that comes your way. There is a reason that we are the bulwark here to decide whether or not this recall election should happen. I think from both policy and moral positions, it's very clear that it should.
Thank you, Senator. Floor is open.
Current information.
Yes.
So the representative of the petitioner had raised factual, I guess, disputes among some of the statements made by Senator. Could the IEP write their statement there for the factual pass?
This feels, yeah, Senator Rowe.
I don't love that. I'm sure President Vexler would have a lot to say about the things people are saying about her. It doesn't feel like due process to allow that kind of discourse.
Yeah, according to the rules, the Senate accepted earlier. Everyone did have a chance to speak. That seems to be undeclared. Would anyone else like to speak in this final Robert's Rules round before voting? Senator Carlson.
Yeah.
Point of order. Yeah, it would be out of order.
Was it referring to this debate? Was it referring to this debate? Okay, yeah. Sorry. Sorry, Carlson.
I said I was going to come back up and speak, so I'll do that here. It's not long. I was asked some hypotheticals earlier on tonight, as well as earlier things earlier in the week, earlier in the month. I spoke to students who I'll start here. I want to emphasize that these signatures have been validated. It's over 800 students who are trying honestly to engage in student governance. We are the bulwark. That is accurate. It's true. But that fire has grown so large to such an extent, unmitigatedly, because of our lack and inability to ultimately work to expand these people's voices in student government. I believe that as a student, Tessa Beckler's speech
is protected. And as Senator Shalanov and I both have agreed in large part for many months working together, as an elected representative, that same speech is then pedestaled for judgment and critique. At her speeches at various conventions, her introductions as the president of the student body is not my only point of contention, as well as all the students who I believe have signed the petition of whom I have spoken. She has gone on the record to state that we are fighting two wars, one against Hamas in Israel, and the other on American college campuses. I have been told by students who have signed the petition that they believe that rhetoric dangerous. They believe her appointment of students who equate other students to Nazi collaborators dangerous. I believe these to be valid criticisms and not seated in critiques against Zionism nor products of anti-Semitism. I think when students can posit these arguments in a setting where they are actively getting signatures, speaking to other students, and trying to lobby for that petition on the behalf of that petition, I believe that the moral position of that petition to be of that of a political disagreement and of a desire for change of leadership and a desire to change the association from the inside. That petition is an attempt of students to engage in student government in a way that is more consistent with our rules and our principles than previously before. And I think that is to be commended. It's not a protest at a Senate meeting. It's a petition that took week-long endeavors to be able to go out and get the vote, right? It is core and essential to democracy. So I believe it right and proper to support ratifying, and I believe it to be proper to put on the ballot for students to be able to look at and consider. Now, I was asked, and I have been already, kind of engaging in the hypothetical of like, what if it was me, or what if it was a friend, or what if it was someone else? All I can think of is that if I went up and said, you know, I'm fighting a war on a college campus, or I accidentally posted some kid's immigration status on my Instagram, I don't want to wage war against my peers. We come here to learn. We come here to debate. We come here to engage in different philosophies and to speak, interpret how we've all come from different backgrounds. That's why the entrance, the barrier to get into this school is so ridiculously large. All of you and all of us were graded on some metric, on some criteria that some people in office decided was a good criteria. And here we are from a variety of different backgrounds. So why am I expected to fight you because of different political views? Why is it my burden to bear, where I should be expected to fight against other students because they might share some political disagreement? I had a great conversation outside where students told me that Zionism is inherently tied to faith. And it was eye-opening. It helped me understand and better understand the position of Zionist students here on campus. I now understand that my core disjuncture with that belief comes from the fact that I have some intersection of different religions in my family and do strongly believe that religion, as all religions are, equal under one thing, right? And that it's religion. The Shinto background that I come from and the Christian background that I come from, I treat them one and the same. And no religion is one more valid than the other. And because of that, I can no longer and can't comfortably say that one belief system will weigh out another. And that's my lived experience. And that's my philosophy. I respect every single person in this room. I respect the students who have run for office, and I respect the work that Tessa Vexler has done. And I respect her mentorship in the early part of my career as a senator. But I believe very strongly that some of the rhetoric, right, not only does it fall upon all of us, as well as President Vexler, but we must be held accountable to that standard. We must diligently and earnestly
aspire to be better leaders for the students that we represent. I yield.
Senator Carlson. Well, if open veteran has not spoken yet, would still like to speak? Seconds. Okay, I would recommend you vote by a secret ballot. Senator Zhang.
Actually, if the chair allow, I would like to have a little discussion about the ways of voting.
Okay.
We are elected representative here. We are elected by students, and we are accountable to them. This is perhaps the most consequential votes will be taken in our whole year of career. And it will be wrong to hide in way of secret ballot. What we did must be seen by the students who elected us. Whether we vote to recall Tessa Wexler or not, it needs to be on record. So, yeah.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Rush.
I disagree. I personally think we made this decision as a Senate in our last board meeting, that it would be in everyone's best interest to allow us to take our votes in privacy. I do feel that first vote to recognize the petition, I don't really see much contention there. Depends, like, I want to gauge the waters coming with you guys, you can do that in public, but I am a fan of doing the second vote that we're tasked with in private.
Senator Martinez.
I say that I agree with that. I think that for the exact same reason that you're saying, the tensions are so high. This is a very important vote. Like, it's very contentious. That's the reason that it's unsafe for us to be taking this vote in a way that everybody like can come at us. Like, we're talking a lot about like dog stuff, and I think that safety and just like that, yeah, I don't think that it should be.
Senator Shaw.
I had a conversation with Senator Adler. We talked amongst other things about the method of the vote. So I want to address that before I say, I'm actually genuinely conflicted. I thought that I would agree with the secret ballot. And I think Senator Shaw like something for me, and I just want to bring it up. First of all, I think that both of you are raising solid concerns, and in particular, this concern of safety is important. I think there is a grand irony in taking a vote on holding somebody accountable and insulate ourselves from accountability in the process. We are exposing President Wexler to even more danger, regardless of the action of this vote, but in particular, if the vote were to pass, then she's already provably experienced in the form of graffiti and everything else. And I think there's something to be said for it being ironic or even cowardly for us to not take that vote publicly. That being said, I'm not fully convinced either way. I want to hear what Senator Adler has to say and maybe some others. I do want to bring up that point though, that the importance of valuing doxing, privacy, safety, all of those things. Of course, those things are paramount, but there's a different standard for students at large and the students like us and like President Wexler who have chosen to step up and be public figures. And part of stepping up and being public figures is taking the flag. And I know firsthand how horrific some of that is, as do many of us. And I think that there's something to be said for it being inappropriate for us to subject somebody else to that accountability without ourselves holding ourselves accountable to our own decisions in front of the press and in front of students here.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Wayne.
Yeah, I do agree with your saying, Senator Schultz, and I do agree that I'm also extremely.
If you come here, please.
Speak up, let us speak loud.
Yeah.
I'm with Senator Shalom on this, that I'm also very conflicted right now between whether or not to try to hold all of us accountable or just to respect precedent. However, I do feel that because we have set a precedent from last meeting, that we should continue with that precedent. And if we wanted to go the accountability route, we should have done so from the beginning, but we've already chosen our route. So let's just stick with that.
Senator Hatfield?
I agree. I think it's a very serious conversation. For me personally, you know that I don't have an issue saying what happens on the chips fall day, but I know this is gonna be a close vote, and the idea that one senator here, two senators here could be influenced one way or not speaking their mind because they're concerned, that really doesn't sit right with me. So I've compromised. Potentially, we do a non-binding secret vote at first to see where the Senate's at. And then we adhere to the vote in public. I don't know, like, yeah.
My understanding is that that sort of thing is heavily discouraged by Robert's Rules of Order. I think it's technically possible, but Robert's Rules of Order very explicitly tries to avoid polls.
He's definitely right. I mean, you guys do what I want, but as far as Robert's Rules goes,
Senator Zah.
I have a comment. Sorry, I've had my hand up for a while.
Senator Lopez.
Thank you. I agree with Senator Rowe and Martinez. I think I'm fine with first being on the, I think that's just the best way to go about it. Also, can we just do like a straw poll and see if people would just prefer to do a closed vote, because it is 12:30, so we should really try to keep that into account. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, final comment from Zah, and then we'll do a little poll. Zah.
I think Senator Wang mentioned a very good point about the last cover meeting where we had a secret ballot. And I think we all know what happened since then. Spoiler alert, it's not very good. I think part of the reason is that we did it in secret ballot. When no one is individually held responsible, everyone is held lightly responsible for the eventual decision. A lot of people would be called Islamophobia, even ourselves, the one. And I don't think that's fair. So the reason is exactly when no one is being held responsible individually, we are all being held responsible collectively for the eventual result, even if you didn't vote for it. So please, let's just face it. It's a job we choose and do it. Yeah.
Senator.
Can we do like a thumbs up secret, or, sorry, no, it's biased, but like thumbs down, public, thumbs sideways, not sure yet, everything?
Let's just miss out.
Wait.
What is it? Yeah, secret, public, sideways. This is a poll, it's just a five chat.
Yeah, that'd be easy.
Okay, so I can get influenced versus public versus private. It's like.
We're still in order. Senator Carlson?
Point of information. I think one of the things I said earlier, I might have misspoken. One of the petitioners, one of the actual sponsors informed me that they never mentioned Zionism or doxing as a reason for the petition. I know, but I'm saying as a point of information because I had misspoken on an earlier statement.
You're good.
That is relevant.
You're good, thank you.
Okay, we're just gonna do a quick notice. I'm gonna say either one of the two, and then you'll raise your hand if you want that. Does that make sense? Does that work with everyone?
Yeah. Look at this Zoom people too.
Oh, yes. Okay, raise your hand for secret ballot. Okay.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Keep your hands raised. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Okay.
Oh, 13. We'll do secret ballot. Okay, that is majority. Senator Solomon?
Just to be clear, are we following Senator Rowe's proposal of first vote being public, second vote being?
Yeah.
The first one.
Yeah.
Still in order. Senator Solomon?
I wanted to ask whether anyone has an objection to that. But thank you.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion?
The motion language,
Senator Solomon?
the motion language has been drafted. Right, it's highlighted.
Question to the chair, the Senate should decide on the rules for folks that are online. How are they going to vote? And how would they vote anonymously? If that's what you want to do, you'll need to append the method to the motion that's being, decided. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Would you like a suggestion?
I would love
the folks that are voting online could submit their votes to our staff member that's online. And they can relay the vote back to us, who are gonna count the hard copy. The method needs to just be one with the motion.
Okay, sounds good. Makes sense? Senator Adler?
Motion to vote by roll call to accept the act petition to recall Tessa Bexler, actually, the organization special election purpose.
A question to the chair.
Yes.
We no longer have minute takers, so the motion makers will really need to really be right next to the recording device.
And I can just restate your motion too.
And the second recording who's making the motion, what the motion is, what the method is, really clearly, first and second.
Gotcha. I'll try my best. Senator Adler has motion to vote by recall. Senator Adler has motion to vote by roll call to accept the attached petition for the recall of Tessa Bexler and enter the deliberation on the organization of a special election for the purpose of the recall. Is there a second? Seconded by Martinez. We're now in discussion.
Question.
I already called the question. Is there objection to call the question?
Consent.
I already consent. Is there objection to consent? Seeing none, motion passes. I will now begin roll call.
I don't believe that motion carries the method by which folks would be voting online.
This is the first one just for the, this is just roll call. Okay.
Okay. You just read down the list, people say yes. No.
Adler. Bhandari.
I have their vote here. Can you confirm this is the vote to vote or which?
This is the vote to accept the petition. This is the public.
Okay.
Yes, we are still in a roll call. Yeah, we're currently voting on whether or not to accept the recall. This is not the recall election. This is just the petition.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Broadway,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Zah,
Yes.
Christiani. Paul, Kara.
Yes.
Lebowski,
Yes.
Little Page,
Yes.
M. Martinez,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Salazar,
Yes.
Shalma,
Abstain.
Wang,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Yamanishi,
Yes.
Von Zedlitz,
Yes.
A. Martinez.
Yes.
Okay.
We have 18 votes in the yes and 1 vote in the abstention.
Motion passes. Recall petition has been accepted. Now, according to the last motion, we are now in what was the executive, deliberation on the organization of a special election for the purpose of recall. Would anyone like to make a Senator Shaw? Sorry.
I'm gonna draft the motion language into the document with Senator Rowe, but I'm concerned about the appearance of new senators who weren't present for the deliberation for the purpose of the vote. I respectfully would ask those people who weren't here for the deliberation don't vote. I think it's extremely inappropriate to hop in the last 2 minutes. I don't think it's necessarily illegal, but I do think it's inappropriate. I'm just going to make the request that senators who didn't hear the deliberation don't vote. I think it's very disingenuous and frankly disrespectful to the subject matter.
Thank you, Senator Shaw. I should say it is totally legal. They can vote, but again, I mean, it's a request from the senator. Senator Little Page.
Can I comment?
Yeah.
Thank you. I don't appreciate my vote trying to be disenfranchised or taken away. I've been on Zoom this entire time, for the entire
Point of
meeting.
information,
So-
Senator wasn't talking about you.
No, but still, it doesn't matter. We have been on Zoom this whole time. So please do not legitimize it just because we are not in person. Thank you.
I'd also like to
Yeah,
comment. I haven't been on the Zoom. I came to the Zoom because I realized I had to be on the Zoom to vote. I've been watching on the Facebook Live. You can check. I have like my 9th grade Facebook account on there. It's been liking it up. But yeah, I'm a little sick, so sorry about that.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Rupp? Senator Rupp? No? Okay.
Yeah. IVP.
Yes. Oh. Oh, I see.
Questions to the chair?
Yeah.
You might want to share with the senators, how you will count abstention.
Oh, yeah, now's a good time. I mean, we've discussed it before, but essentially abstentions will count towards the vote total, which means abstentions are effectively a no. Now, obviously, it's not a no, it's an abstention, and if you have some sort of moral compass pointing in that direction, feel free, vote how you want. But for the purposes of counting a vote, abstention will count as a no. Effectively. And Senator,
Our past parliamentarian has asked us not to word things that way. It's not a no vote, it's abstaining to vote. It just doesn't count towards the threshold that we need to ratify the vote.
yes,
It's not a no vote. Don't word it that way.
it's effectively a no vote, and in my interpretation.
It doesn't count. for
Senator Adler?
But do you mind if we're doing a blind voting, just since you've been here, you've heard the discussion, and that you really don't have an opinion in it, there really should be no abstention, to be honest, so you're voting blind, vote how you want, right? But if you want to abstain, do that, but that would be interesting.
Senator,
Abstaining is not a no vote. You're welcome to abstain. It is your right as a senator. You don't have to vote if you don't have a strong opinion on this, and that's your moral responsibility if you don't feel well. So.
A question to the chair on a different matter, just, you might want to remind folks what the threshold is to pass
yeah. How many senators we have present now? Nice. Yeah, Senator.
I also feel like if you just joined the Zoom, when we made all of this effort to hear students, like, think about like the things that we went through earlier this evening to make sure that it could like take part in the democratic process and all hear students speak about their experiences in regards to this petition. It feels really undemocratic in my mind to have someone, you can understand what I'm saying, Senator Adler, to have someone jump on the Zoom. You're like, look
I'm
at
not saying anything.
to have someone jump on the Zoom right now after all of that discussion that we fought so hard to have and vote on such a contentious issue. That's,
I thought Senator Falk just said she was present the whole time on the Zoom.
Senator Zopp?
Yeah. I think when Senator Falk says she was out of this vote, we should take a vote for it. That's basic track last sentence. Yeah.
Senator Folk?
I didn't mean to have my hand raised, but I was also gonna note that I could have had a proxy go, but I didn't arrange for it because the meeting was supposed to be online and then it was changed a few times. But if I could have had a proxy go and vote in my place, I don't see why, if I wasn't on the Zoom, which I was watching on Facebook Live. I swear, I liked it on accident. You can check like at least an hour ago if you are pulling up receipts. But if you'd like to vote to have my vote not count because I wasn't here, feel free.
Senator Folk, no one can stop you from voting. You are a full senator. People can ask you not to vote, but you will vote if you want to vote. Senator Shaw?
Since I brought up the point, I just want to be clear. If you were here, please vote. I'm just making a request that if you had just joined, you shouldn't. I can't see even the Zoom. I don't know who just joined. I just got concerned by the phrasing that the IVT used. That's all. If you're here, please vote. Vote however you'd like. No one's contesting anything. We're good.
Senator Littlepage?
I agree. Let's get on to the vote, please.
Senator Knott? Wait. Oh, no problem.
You can't
freaking talk when people are writing their ballots, okay, writing the votes? Because you guys did that last time and things up. So don't talk.
Senator Zhang?
A motion to divide the election vote to enable a recall election of the president pursuant to the applicable constitution, bylaws, and standing policies. Regulations, recognition of the petition received by the Senate to the same effect by secret ballot. Digit votes will be counted by professional staff under the direction of the executive director.
Senator Zha has motioned to direct the elections board to enable a recall election of the president pursuant to applicable constitutional bylaws and standing policy regulations. In recognition of the petition received by the Senate, the same effect by secret ballot. Digital votes will be counted by professional staff under the direction of the executive director. Is there a second? Seconded by Senator Weber. We're now in discussion. Are you called questions? Objection to call the question?
Consent.
Or consent? Is there objection to consent? Seeing none, motion passes. We'll begin the vote. Oh, sorry. Yeah, the threshold would be 13 yeses.
How many no's?
Anything above 6 no's would be a no.
Do you want to put in the record how the online vote is going to be recorded?
Oh, yes, yes. The interpretation of this, it's under the direction of the executive director, but they will be sending their votes to Holly via a DM. And Holly will be sending it to you to write on a piece.
Send it to me, send it to me, and I'm gonna write it.
Okay, let me send it to you.
Can you say that? What?
Senator Shawna?
We're in a meeting that's in order. A vote has been taken to take a secret ballot. Nobody can speak at all unless you're pointed at by the internal vice president. Could the internal vice president please repeat the direction for voting very clearly, very directly into the microphone?
Yes, absolutely. Senators online, you'll be sending your vote via DM to Holly. Holly will be sending it to Marissa, and Marissa will write it down on a note of paper just to be joined with the rest of the votes. Is that clear? Just raise your hand if that makes sense, senators online. Or the two guys again.
The chair has some, answer.
Senator Martinez?
Yes, sounds good.
Thank you.
Explain like exactly what yes, no, and abstain mean.
I absolutely can.
Like in this context.
A yes in this context is yes, elections board shall enable a recall election. A no is no, elections board shall not enable a recall election. An abstention is I abstain from this vote. Knowing that my vote goes to the vote total. Yeah.
Point of information, if you do vote abstention, then it's still counted towards the 2/3 threshold. Yeah.
Anyone else? Shall we start?
Now, no time. Okay, just go ahead. Oh, more copy.
Okay.
Just cut off, just give me a moment. Thank you.
Yeah. How does this work? So where's the camera on this? Is it, oh, it's the top.
It's
So what's the
it's great. So
what's the shiny thing?
I think it's also camera. It has so many cameras.
Wait, so if I do this, so
It really looks like
all the angles. Wow.
I mean, you look like an old man. It's like shit. Pointing in the car a little bit.
No, I'm intrigued by tech. Oh, wow. It's beautiful. Whoa. I'm like at all the cameras. Oh my God, this is crazy. Oh, and now we can chat. Wait, that means they can hear everything I say.
Oh, right. I basically broadcasting our conversation.
Oh, so interesting.
Thanks.
Wait, I'm like a engineering nerd, but I don't know how you set this all up. It's crazy.
I
You just connect this and then you just bing that one.
just plugging anything.
Oh, you just set it up. That's actually so cool. Wait, so what if you want to use this camera as well?
We can choose their interactive option.
That's wow.
I built my own desktop, so
Oh,
so I love it.
this is actually so cool. Is it, so you can choose an input and then
Okay.
oh, so it wasn't coming from that.
Yeah,
Because I thought it was like glass and like
no, it's not here. It's how the best function. Probably it's 20,000.
no way.
I mean, that's expensive. I will give you.
The final count was 11 yeses, 1 abstention, 7 noes. Motion failed. Moving on. Senator Shawna?
I think it might be appropriate to move to a Zoom meeting tomorrow
Yeah,
or something.
please, for the love
I think
of
we've been
God.
here for a very long
That'd be
time. Before we have the floor,
Senator Shawna?
before we do that, if chair would permit me, I'd like to motion acceptance.
Oh,
Is that all right?
Senator Shawna?
In action item K, I motion to accept all minutes and allocations.
In action item K, there's a motion to accept, there's a motion from Senator Shawna to accept all minutes and allocations. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Yamanishi, we're not discussing. I recall question, objection, call question. I consent, objection, consent. Seeing none, motion passes. Floor is open. Senator Shawna?
In item L, I motion to accept all appointments with additions.
In item L,
Appointments and resignations with additions.
there's been a motion to accept all appointments and resignations with additions. Is there a second? Second by Carol, we're not discussion.
Question.
I recall question, objection, call question. An objection.
Consent.
I understand.
I rescind my motion.
before anyone makes a motion on resignations of IBTU, in the Senate, I've required every resignation to send like a resignation email, or just some sort of proof that that person actually resigned. Does anyone know if these IBTU ones, has anyone seen proof that these people resigned? No, okay. Okay, Senator Solomon?
Since this isn't an urgent matter, resignation can come later. Can we just do this next week?
Is that right? Okay. Shawna?
Motion to accept all appointments and resignations of positions.
There's been a motion to accept all appointments and resignations of positions. Is there a second? Seconded by Carlson. We're not discussion.
Call the question.
I call the question. Dexter, call the question. Consent. Consent. Seeing none, motion passes. The floor is open. Senator Solomon?
If I might ask the elections board chair whether there's any other action items that are required from us? You're good? I yield.
Floor is open. No.
And motion to adjourn the meeting at 12:56 AM on April 11, 2025.
There's been a motion to adjourn this meeting at 12:56 a.m. for 11/2024. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Discussion. Senator Solomon?
I think that adjournment is incorrect. I think that we should take a recess and reconvene via Zoom or via email. There's old and new business on the agenda and put it in purgatory and do adjourn.
I amend my previous motion to recess to an email vote.
Senator Zab motions to amend his previous motions to, oh, you cannot. Previous motion has been amended to enter a recess to an email vote. Second by Weber, or not? I call the question. Judge, call the question.